disclaimer, we'd like to note before the start of this interview that the opinions about to be expressed by the guest on tonight's Gettin Salty Experience podcast are that of the guest and do not directly or necessarily reflect the views of the host of the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
You're listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Hello, Fat Daddy Ray in the fucking chat. Welcome back to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast. This is the other one that brings the Firehouse Kitchen table to you. Sitting in tonight is Mike in his nice-looking dandy suit he's got over there.
Gonzo don't yell at me.
We got yelled at by Mike in the pre-show.
That is not true.
Yeah, it is. But anyway, anywho, as usual, we're doing it tonight. We don't forget. We say it, we mean it. We don't forget. We will never forget. So we're doing another tribute show tonight to another fallen great, Chief Ganci. We have his son on. We have Chief J. Jonas, who's got all the info. I need the info. He's the guy with the info, right, Ruff?
He's the man with the plan.
He is the man with the plan. Ruffy and Chief Ganci were in there yapping it up, and Mike had to call time out. Whoa!
We were
time for the show.
We were having the show before the show.
Right.
It was.
They're talking about Brooklyn days. Talking about the old days in Brooklyn.
But now he seems to be. He's excited about. Well, now we call him the Gimp for short.
Oh yeah, well he brings out the crutches. Feel sorry for me. I'm wearing crutches, but.
But now he's talking about the Bronx. He loves the Bronx.
Loves the Bronx. Chief J. Jonas knows all about that.
No, after you. No,
you go first.
No, you go.
You're first.
Easy. Don't say it.
What?
I know you're going to say it.
I knew what he was thinking. I'm like,
it's a family show here tonight.
Yep.
Is it?
Especially tonight.
Yeah, control yourself, will you, please?
I'll try to control myself.
Well, folks, we had a great run. It's been.
I almost said it again. I was going to say.
I know he was going to say it. I was going to say
it again. If Mike didn't jump in, I was going to say it. Anywho, we got a good show for you tonight.
Yes, we do.
Lots of stories. Another great fallen hero. Great guy.
This is our third one? Third one.
Yes, it's our third one with many more to come. As long as Chief J. Jonas keeps putting up with our shenanigans anyway. I think he's got roast beef on the menu tonight. Last time he had the veal palm.
Shrimp palm.
And he's got a new grandbaby in there. 2 weeks old.
Congratulations.
Good for him. Great job. Yeah. All right, Mike, let's play some commercials so we can get them in here really quick.
Mm-hmm. First, we're going to hear from New Jersey Fire.
Established in 1930 and under the current ownership since 1987, the New Jersey Fire Equipment Company handles a complete line of fire department equipment and supplies. Headquartered in Greenbrook, the company operates full 3M Scott service facilities in Ridgefield Park and Toms River, staffed by 10 fully authorized Scott certified technicians with a fleet of 6 fully equipped service vans. All New Jersey Fire technicians and sales representatives are active or retired firefighters, officers or chief officers, career and volunteer. They understand the business and the importance of their work. New Jersey Fire has represented Scott since Earl Scott entered the SCBA business at the end of World War II. Among other leading manufacturers represented by New Jersey Fire are Globe and Firedex Turnout Gear, Mercedes Hose, Task Force Tips and Akron Brass, Hygenol, Firehooks, Arctic Compressors, MSA Carnes Helmets, ChemGuard Foam, Alkalite and Duo Safety Ladders, BA Face Shield Protectors, Truckman's Choice Saws, Grove's Gear Racks and Washer Dryers, Supervac Fans, RPI, Streamlight, and many others. A New Jersey incorporated and based company, sales and service are limited to the state of New Jersey. Find us now at www.njfe.com. That's www.njfe.com.
We actually got to see Jimmy the Guinea out there, right, Roof? Came through our booth really quick, in and out, though. He's a busy guy. Busy.
He's always busy.
Yeah, you know what? Also, let's give a little plug to the www.saltywire.com, our new app and new content website, Mikey.
Yeah. For those of you not familiar, sorry, Coops, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, brother. You're the man.
I was going to say, for those of you not familiar with it, we have the documentary out. We're working on another one, but this is our trailer, if you haven't seen it yet, for our Halligan documentary.
So did he come from a big family as well, your dad?
Yeah, he was the youngest of 8.
Youngest of 8?
Yeah.
Any other one of them firemen, or what made him want to be a fireman?
Ready for this typical Irish Catholic immigrant family.
The Halligan tool was drop forged rather than welded and weighed in at only 8.5 pounds. Ironically, because it was developed by a member, the FDNY did not purchase the first Halligan tools that were commercially produced, and that distinction instead went to the Boston Fire Department.
You're listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Yep, and you can get that at www.saltywire.com.
What happened there, Mikey? You got cut off there. I was all excited to hear what you were talking about.
You get the Firewire app, you get our original content, and there's a lot of other stuff coming down the pike. Mike's working on the rescue documentary right now from 1915 to 1970, right? Because I started writing from 70 up. So
just about done. We're nearing completion with that.
Sweet. So get over there and get it. All right, Ruff, we got to get these gentlemen in here. We can't keep guys like this.
All right. Do we have the applause ready? We have applause or no?
Oh, hold on. I think I have it. Let me check.
Give it.
I don't have the soundboard.
Hold on.
Our friend down in Florida, who's currently on a cruise right now, he has that.
Yeah, let me check it out.
That's all right.
A little louder. More louder. It's good. All right, let's bring him in.
All right, coming to the stage, Chief J. Jonas and Chief Chris Ganci. All right, so we got 2 chiefs, so we're going to have Big Chief, Gimpy Chief. I don't know what do you think.
Oh boy!
How about Chief G and Chief J? There you go.
All right.
Chief G and Chief J. Before we get any further, though, we got to do our thing because we are a patriotic show, Mike.
Yes, we will.
Country. We don't need our safe spaces. Do it. Come on.
Easy, especially after recent events. We'll pull that up right now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Nice. Excellent. Thank you for both gentlemen for coming in tonight.
My pleasure.
We like to do these because Chief J. Jonas has all the info, and then we get the inside scoop, the family member who can tell us stuff that may not be readily available. And we got Chief Ganci coming on. So let's dive right in, Chief. You can start it off.
All right. Well, the biggest decision I had to make was when I decided to do Chief Ganci was who to do. I had done Patty Brown, and I got tremendous feedback from Patty Brown. And it's all right. Who can measure up to Patty Brown? And I got to thinking, I says, well, who do I know? It may not know me that well, but who do I know that died that day that had the respect of Patty Brown? And I was like, there you go, it's Pete Ganci. And I had a little personal thing with him. When I was a young fireman in 27 truck, he was a covering captain. And I'm bringing my briefcase and my study books and everything from across the street in the parking lot, walking into the firehouse, and the guy greets me at the door. He says, hey, you're going to be driving for the first time tonight, and you got a covering captain. I was like, oh, great, putting the pressure on. And that's when we first met. I drove him my first tour as
your first tour ever driving. You're driving Captain Ganci.
Did you scare the heck out of him?
Future chief of department. No pressure.
No pressure. Did he tell you when the faster you go, the skinnier the rig gets? Did he tell you that?
Yeah. And I'm sure he had his thoughts. This is, oh my God, here we go. But we had
You do any of this? Hey, check this
How
out.
many
Pete.
parts to spare to something?
I could handle the rig pretty well, and but we had a few runs, and by the time the tour was over, he was very happy with what I did. So,
Nice.
Little
but
did you know
I
you were
never
driving the
forgot
chief
that.
department.
I never forgot that, and then I got promoted to lieutenant and captain, and I was in the 4th Battalion for both ranks. And Chief Ganci, when he was captain, was the captain of 18 Truck, and they were very proud of that. 4th Battalion is a very close battalion, and 18 Truck was very proud that he was their captain. And I remember word got around the battalion that the Chief of Department Ganci's coming over to 18 Truck for dinner, and I think they had everybody coming off duty, and they had a nice night for him,
Nice.
So once I made the decision, that was the hard part, who to do. And the first thing I did was get on the internet and buy Chris Ganci's book on his dad that he wrote about, and that gave me a lot of information right off the bat, and I was able to talk to a lot of guys. Anybody who knew him was more than willing to talk about him.
I didn't even know you wrote a book, Chief Ganci.
Yeah,
I wrote a children's book, believe it or not, right after September 11th, before I was a fireman.
I read it in 2nd grade. Yep, that's the book.
Can I see that again, Chief? Wow, that's cool. I didn't know we had an author in our midst there,
Here,
Ruffy.
did he take out the here?
Hold
here,
on a
you know, get the
It's a children's book.
Came on like this.
yeah.
let me tell you what I did.
But it was something that got me kick-started, and Chris was newly promoted as a battalion chief, and it was assigned to the 7th Division. So he says, well, here we go. I give him a call and see what we could find out. And Chris gave me a lot of good information, as well as other people from Dan Nigro to Al Turri and things like, and people like that who really knew Pete well. So let's get started. He was born October 27th, 1946 in Brooklyn. He was the 2nd oldest of how many kids, Chris? 6.
Irish.
Irish with Ganci? The name Ganci? Is that right?
That's how last name. My grandmother probably ruled that route. She was Irish. Holy water by the door.
Nominee Patrick.
After 4 years, they moved to Long Island, and I guess that's Farmingdale, right? And he enjoyed living in Farmingdale because he was a fan of baseball, and he could get a baseball game together with his cousins at the drop of a hat. So when he was younger, he did odd jobs when he wasn't playing baseball or helping his father at their feed store. The grandfather had a feed store, right? At the age of 16, he met a man named Tony Liotta. Tony was 9 years older than Pete and had been a fireman in the New York City Fire Department for about 3 years. He was assigned to Engine 18, famous company in Manhattan.
Yeah.
He told Pete of the thrilling aspects of being a fireman. This was a pivotal point in Pete's life. Their discussions ignited a desire in Pete to become a fireman. Pete and his friend Dan Nicola joined the Farmingdale Volunteer Fire Department. There you go. And which further piqued Pete's desire to become a fireman.
Chris, hold on. Chris, was he a Met fan or a Yankee fan?
Yeah, Yankee fans in our house, but he liked the Mets, but I would say he was probably a Yankee fan.
All right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I asked.
He was winning. What are you talking about? He's
Yeah, I
sorry
know.
for you.
Oh, thanks, Ruff. Appreciate that.
All right, when the Ganci family was patriotic. When Pete was 18, he enlisted in the U.S. Army. It was 1965, and the Vietnam War was raging. Pete volunteered for the Airborne and was later assigned to the famous 82nd Airborne Unit.
Oh, shit.
That's a very prestigious unit.
Yeah.
Pete spent 2 years in the Army and he would attain the rank of sergeant. However, he was never deployed to Vietnam. Pete felt badly that he didn't get to go overseas.
Look at that picture there, huh?
Yeah, man. Baby face.
That's a great picture. Yeah. Yeah. And
isn't that a common theme though, Chief? Like Patty Brown, he wanted to go and fight. Chief Ganci wanted to go and fight, you know. That seems to be a common thread in these guys.
Yeah. You know, that's
A personality.
That inner man in them who guy chirping in their ear is just you gotta go.
Yeah.
All right, when Pete was home on leave in 1966, his friend and mentor Tony Liotta was distressed. The FDNY had just suffered the biggest firefighter life loss of firemen in their history on October 17th, 1966. 12 firemen were killed in the line of duty while fighting a fire at the 23rd Street and Broadway building. A lieutenant and 4 firemen from Engine 18, Tony's company, would perish at the fire. Suddenly, Pete realized that this is a dangerous aspect. There's a dangerous aspect to fighting fires as well. So we got a taste of that, what that was all about. Pete was discharged from the Army in 1967. He did odd jobs and some carpentry. He continued his membership in the Farmingdale Volunteer Fire Department, and he'd frequently go fishing with his friend Dan Nicola. One day, Tony Liotta asked Pete to take a ride with him into the city. Tony was considering transferring to another unit in the FDNY and wanted to check the firehouses out. Pete got to see the camaraderie of the firefighters in various firehouses they stopped at. This greatly influenced Pete. He took the test to become an FDNY fireman. Peter J. Ganci Jr. was appointed as a probationary firefighter.
Wow.
September 15th, 1968.
My birthday, September 3rd, 1968.
You were 12 days old when you got on the job.
12 days old, little
I
Ruffy.
wanted to ask Chief Ganci, like, if he could go over just like what he, as his childhood, like what he remembers about his dad early on, like about the fire department, all that stuff growing up.
How many brothers and sisters do you have too, Chief?
My older brother Pete is the captain of 174 truck, and my youngest sister Danielle, she's married to a captain who's bouncing around in the 15th division right now.
Oh, so keeping it all in the family.
You didn't give her the word? I mean, did you give her the,
stay away from
stay away from firemen,
bro? Isn't that a kick in the pants? The younger brother's a chief and the older brother's a captain.
Oh, no. Subject. It's all right. He was in a study group early on. You know, he was fun. It was fun.
Blame it on the study group.
Yeah.
How many years does he have on, Chris?
Oh, Pete was so he was on that EMS class, that first the cadet program, that first one, the first cadet program. Did EMS for a while and then was a probie on September 11th. He would have been on probation the Saturday of my dad's funeral, the 15th.
Oh,
so he had a year on a job, Pete. And Pete was actually working the night before the 10th. He was in 214 engine the night before. Got relieved by Mike Roberts in the morning to go relieve Kenny DeTata in the truck. 214 went out. Well, the truck went out first to a garbage fire, and then 214 went to trade center, and then none of them came home. So Chris Sullivan, all those guys. So it was almost a really close call for both my brother and my father. But my dad was like the proudest guy of his military service. He loved being in the 82nd Airborne. He was heartbroken. He wanted me to go to West Point, like terribly, and was really upset when I decided it wasn't really for me. But he always said it was the best time of his life. And then Tony Liotta, actually, he recently passed away, but what a wonderful human being. Another guy, when I was writing the children's book, I sat down with him and talked to him, and he told me a story. He goes, he was newly married, and he was buying a house, and my dad had just come home from the military, and Tony had a baby on the way and was looking, to purchase the house. He said all of a sudden the next day there was a check for whatever it was, $1,000 or $2,000. This is 1966 for a down payment on the house. He said my father never asked for it back. He never said anything about it.
Really?
Yeah, it was money from the military that I had saved up. But that's the kind of stuff that my dad did all the time for people. Like, he was an extremely loyal person. He tried to drill that into us when we were young. Obviously, his love for the fire department, it actually, it wore on to me and Pete and the rest of my family. I said my mom knows the group chart probably better than half of you guys do. He was married to the fire department. My mom's a saint, for putting up for a lot of stuff. Because if anybody ever knew him, he was the life of the party. But he was married to the fire department. We used to say he had 10,000 kids, and he was active in like every aspect of the job. From whether he was, a young lieutenant. I remember as a captain when he was a young captain, when he was studying, he'd be studying on Christmas and all those other times. He'd come down for a little while, but it always being a part of our lives growing up. But fireman working 2-3 jobs, studying all the time, and still made time for us. But fun. I mean, funny guy. I could tell you a million different stories. And Chief Jonas, I don't want to suck up all the oxygen. But he
no, it's good, man. So
just a funny, like, really down to earth guy who loved being a New York City fireman, and like a lot. I can tell you stories about like when there's a particular former staff chief who was a commissioner in a local city. You guys, I don't want to mention him by name because I love the guy, but I remember me and my brother had twin beds, and like sharing a room when we were kids, and Uncle Bob would be sleeping on the floor, like, So I used to joke around with him. I think I was a lieutenant at the time. I was looking for a spot, and I think I was in Queens at the time, and I was looking to move and get the spot 174. And I'm like, remember that time you urinated in my toy box when I was?
You owe me.
You owe me.
I don't know how to say that. But that was the kind of stuff, like, you're growing up with firemen, a bunch of children, and like, sometimes you're the adult in the room when you're 8,
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So your dad was always. I'm sorry, Chief. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go.
I'm saying, so your dad had a personality, even on the job later on, where he was like a funny guy. Like, he was very personable, easy to talk to, always like that.
Yeah, that's the way I remember him. He was very approachable, and guys sought him out. They wanted some information or trying to get something done. They would search Pete out.
It always looks like in all his pictures, though, he looks so serious in his pictures.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. When it was time to throw, like, when I hear guys like talk about how he was that day, and like guys like, no, he was angry, and I could see it in his eyes. Like, when he would get mad, like, me and Pete were bigger than him, but terrified of him. As soon as those eyes would get like, we get mad, like that can do to you. You got to run for the hills. Run for the hills. He's coming for you. But he was he had like a way about him. He was extremely approachable. I know that the term gets thrown around a lot, like he's like a blue shirted chief, but like, he really was. He was the acting chief of department, chief operations for a couple of years. Joe Casaberi was on medical leave. So he never moved his office back up to the 8th floor. He left it on the 7th floor. And he used to say that's where operations were. And he was a fireman. So I could tell you stories, like, I know they're infamous and guys will probably talk about it, but like, so I used to sell in a former life. I sold pharmaceuticals. I worked for a drug company. Like, I was never supposed to be a fireman, right? I don't want to make this talk about me, but my friends at home will probably be laughing at me because I'm talking about me. But I went to an Ivy League.
We want to hear.
I went to an Ivy League school. Like, I have an MBA. Like, I was never supposed to be a fireman, right? And you want to talk about a couple of like things that happened out of tragedy was that I discovered this job, and that was the greatest gift he could have ever given me. Is I'm a New York City fireman because of this. But I used to, his office at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I used to take clients out to the city all the time. And I used to, like, instead of going home, I'd go before Metrotech was there, that little parking lot that was guarded by the fire marshal, she used to do my paperwork, and I would go upstairs and hang out with him. So at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where everybody who you didn't want to hang out with would leave the building, like, you'd go up to his office and he'd be like, Steve Marciello, who was his exec, who was my neighbor, lived across the street from us. Steve would be like, oh, yeah, stop by the ice machine. So on the way up, stopping by the ice machine. I would walk into the corner office, and there'd be like 20 guys. And it was like the smoke was like down to the ground. And everybody's having a drink and a cocktail, and they're talking, well, oh, so-and-so did this, he got jammed up. All right, what are we going to do with him? We're going to hide him. We're going to put him over here. What are we going to do with this guy? All right, we're going to do that. And that's how it would run. And he used to say all the business of the New York City Fire Department, the important stuff, taking care of the men, would happen between the hours of 3 o'clock in the afternoon and 7 o'clock at night.
I freaking
And
love it.
he would come home, and like you wonder, like the guy worked crazy hours because he was always the first guy in the building, but he'd be the last guy out of the building and he'd come home. At home, he's just dad, but you know, in the fire department, he was Chief Ganci. But he would just like stuff like that. Like just remember, like guys who, after he was killed, another chief that I knew, he was getting jammed up for something with the former commissioner, and he was out on a limb. And he said, he goes, Chris, he goes, I had nothing to lose. I didn't know him from a hole in the wall. I just knew he had a reputation. I came upstairs, I knocked on his door, and the door was open. He goes, came in, I introduced myself. I'm the captain of this so-and-so truck in Queens, and this is what happened. And my dad just sat there and listened and listened and listened. And then he said, you know what? He goes, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to go to bat for you. And he goes, and he did. He went upstairs to talk to the commissioner and went to bat for the guy and saved the guy. And like, I never heard that story before. Like, but the guy came after my dad was killed and introduced himself on the line, the receiver line.
Oh shit, that's freaking awesome, man.
Story. And I remember sitting there going like, there's a million stories like that. And just another, like, how is it like growing up with him? So random people would show up at the house at weird times. A lot of them with shaved heads, being in probie school, which is bizarro if I tell people like this. So Louis, like, you know Mike Sawalski? Like, Mike don't mind me mentioning it.
Yeah.
He was a 107 truck, right? So
Yeah.
he's from Tuttlemondo. So 7:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Now, a lot of people didn't notice my dad loved birds. He liked bird watching. Like, this is like the strangest thing ever.
I freaking love it.
We lived on the woods in a preserve, like in Massapequa, and a state park was the backyard. And my dad would go outside, smoke a 7:30 cigarette, have his coffee, and he'd watch birds. So like, there's a knock at the door, and here's this fireman, Mike Sawalski. He's like, Chief, I'm from Farmingdale. You don't know me. I just want to introduce myself. I don't know anybody on the fire department. I'm in probie school, and I'm really looking for a good company. It's like, wow. He's like, all right, kid, I like your moxie. All right, no problem. So whatever, Monday morning, Mike Sawalski, firefighter Sawalski, 236 engine. So my 236 engine, right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Mike shows up at the house that night because, Chief, I really wanted a truck.
Holy shit!
Swing and a miss, he struck him out.
He's like, man, kid. He goes like, all right, who's the captain of 107 truck? He's like, so-and-so. Picks up the phone, so-and-so. Mike, you're assigned to 107 truck tomorrow.
Wow, kid's got balls, man.
That's all I needed to do was go find out where the chief lived. Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Who'd have known?
So never took himself seriously about anything in terms of like that kind of stuff. He would go out, he would have fun with the guys. So like Marciello was kind of like his protector. So like Stevie, God rest his soul, he passed away too. Like his son actually is in one truck, right? Great guy. So Stevie, I remember there was some kind of function where like all the guys in 133, 275, like used to stop there to use the bathroom on the way home because it was like the halfway point.
Yeah,
whatever
right.
They would stop there. So and he knew a lot of those guys, and it was, I don't want to speak. It was like hats and horns a little bit sometimes.
Allegedly.
I guess they took all his medals and stuff off, and they put him on a probie shirt. So like, and my dad was a Warriors guy, so he looked like a South American dictator. So like he like Jack Christian like that. I'm like, you're like a South American dictator from Banana Republic.
He's from Ecuador. Yeah, that's hilarious.
So Steve the next day came by and he was like with an envelope. He's like, just put him in the envelope, guys. Just put him in the envelope. And the guys are dumping all the metal, place trees and stuff, and put them all in the metal. But then he used to come home, and he was dad at home. So he was just a wonderful, warm, approachable human being. Like never had he was like my height, he was like obviously average height, right? So 5'8", so never had a complex about who he was, never had an ego of who he was. Guys knew him in Farmingdale. He would sit in the volley house and have a beer, and the guys were like, that's Fireman Pete. And they're like, after he was killed, like, that's Chief Fireman Pete? And he's like, yeah. He's like, no. For years, he would just sit there and have a drink and be like, Pete Ganci, Fireman. And like, that's what he never took himself too seriously. Lynn Tierney, who used to joke around that she had a picture of him with like a happy birthday, like pink headband on her desk. Like, why do you keep that? She goes, because that guy was so humble. He never gave a crap that he had. It was the chief of deployment with a pink headband on. Happy birthday.
You know what? Well, you said before, Chief, that you said, Chief G, that you said, I'm going to go up. Your dad said, I'm going to go up and go to bat for you, right? I love that term. Like, that's a fire department term you hear all the time, right? Guys will go to bat for you. You know what I mean? And that's just putting it all. That's putting your reputation on the line. You know, he did that for a guy that came and knocked on the door. You know what I mean? And put him in 236. You don't know if the guy's going to be anything. You know what I mean? It's just that's a good thing.
Do you know Chief D. Domenico? You know Jimmy D. Domenico, right?
Yeah.
Did you lose
I
me?
love Chief D. I love Chief D. I worked at the 13th a couple times.
You lose me?
I was a 126 truck, and Chief D would tell a story about how he got jammed up for something. He wrote a test, or he was writing a test, and he was also teaching fire tech at the time. And like, bits had him, and they were going after him. They're like, "How could you write the test and you're teaching fire tech and doing all that stuff?" And he said, out of nowhere, my father comes in, just sits behind him in the meeting where he was getting interrogated, and puts his hand on Chief D. Domenico's shoulder. And he goes, and they're asking Chief D. Domenico a question, and my dad would just say, "I'm the one that told him to do this. I'm the one that told him to do this."
Wow.
And he goes, "You wanted someone to do this. He's the best at doing this. That's why he's doing this. I told him to do this," like that. And he goes, and the meeting was squashed like after that. And Chief D. Domenico, he always had a soft spot for me. That's why I always appreciated it. But he would, you know, a fireman's fireman. He could have a conversation with you. And he told me that story one time, and I'm like, that's my old man. That's exactly who he was, that kind of person. He would never put a guy in front of like a position where he would get hurt in terms of like, and guys who were tested. I don't know if you guys talked to Dennis Conway at all. Like, Dennis was the best from 111 truck. I know he was friends with Dennis Murphy. A lot of those stories.
Yeah, we've been trying to get him. Yeah.
Dennis was upstairs. He was the guy upstairs. You guys went making all that noise.
Yeah. Correct. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So Dennis Conway will tell you a story about Father's Day. Like Father's Day, like my dad went to everything. Like, so obviously Father's Day he's going to be there, but like he would have I used to call it the electronic ankle bracelet. Like the beeper that would go off, and he would just be. We'd be at a function in Staten Island. And my cousin, went to West Point. He's getting his wings, and my dad's checking the beeper, and he's like, second alarm, third alarm, and finally he's like this to us, like, we got to go. And the whole family, the Ganci clan's going to a fourth alarm on Ocean. Or in the car. They go to the dad hopping out of the car, and looking like, what's going on here? My dad's like, high X full. Wait till you see this, like that, like something so crazy, But so much fun, but just a really solid, wonderful human being.
You need more guys like
that.
Wow.
Chief Jonas, keep going. I'm sorry.
Chris.
Oh, dude, that's great stuff.
You kind of glanced over his story that we spoke about when I was doing my research. That you qualified for West Point.
Well, yeah, I was going to go to West Point, and I broke his heart when I decided I wasn't going. So, like, that was really what it was. He wanted me and my brother to go into the military. We both became firemen. Yeah. So there you go. We're like children,
Well, where did you go?
I went to Cornell, actually.
All right. Not bad.
Mr. Smarty Pants.
Mr.
Smarty Pants.
I'm not the only one. There's like 3 or 4 guys that I met. I mean, this guy's on his job with doctors. This guy was a rocket scientist. This guy just retired from the 4-6 Battalion. He was a rocket scientist. We got guys that take their own urine
and he's duct taping.
He's mopping your bathroom.
I was going to say he's duct taping somebody's butt together.
All right.
They don't care where you went to college. They just, I used to fall for that every time. 157. They were like, "Yeah, it's you went to Cornell, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, that get in the sink like that."
Clean the toilet.
All right, Chief Jake.
Okay. On graduation from Proby School, Pete was assigned to Engine 92 in the Bronx. Wow. 1968, circa the Bronx was.
No fires there.
Nah.
The very air was on fire,
That's great.
And
air was on fire.
He was able to cut his teeth as a young fireman in his time in the Bronx. At one fire in an occupied multiple dwelling, Pete penetrated deep into a burning flat and found 2 kids. He handed them out a window to an awaiting fireman on the fire escape. So that's his first grab. That's a I love that picture of him.
With the cat there? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's a good pick. Young.
Pete made lifelong friendships in Engine 92. Two of them were Dennis Conway and Al Turry. Both of these men would end up in Pete's wedding party when he got married. Dennis was Pete's best man and was godfather to one of his sons. Al and Pete had a window washing business on the side to make extra money for their young families. So there you go. They're on their way. In 1971, Pete went to a bank in Farmingdale to do some business. It was another pivotal point in his life. He met a bank teller, Kathleen Coaster, and would tell his friends that he was going to marry that girl. On Valentine's Day, 1972, they'd become engaged. They were married and had 3 children. Pete immersed
one of them.
Yeah, there he is. Pete immersed himself in the job. He started studying for lieutenant. He recognized how big the FDNY was and how many different opportunities there were out there. His good friend Dennis Conway had made his way to Ladder 111 in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Ladder 111 was one of the busiest ladder companies in the FDNY and had an excellent reputation. He told Pete that this is it. This is the place to be. Pete Ganci transferred to Ladder 111 on October 9th, 1972.
Wow.
There you go. Pete's efforts, he's a real slacker, right? Engine 92 and Ladder 111. Two of the busiest companies during that time. Pete's efforts in studying for promotion paid off. He was promoted to lieutenant on October 15th, 1977. Exact 10 years to the day before I got promoted to lieutenant.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, very good, right? He'd be assigned to the 2-8 Battalion and later to Ladder 124 in the Bushwick section of Brooklyn. Guys who I knew from 124, I knew Van Dorn Johnson, I knew George Iser, a lot of 124 guys, and they loved Pete Ganci. The legend of Pete Ganci was growing. They had made numerous rescues over the years working in the Bronx and Brooklyn. However, you would never know it by talking to him. He was very unassuming, and he was a humble guy and highly respected. Throughout his career, whenever he met someone for the first time, he would introduce himself as a fireman. Even when he became chief of department, that's how he would introduce himself, as a fireman. All right, the fire where Pete Ganci got a medal at on 186 Knoll Street in Brooklyn occurred on February 18th, 1983. Ladder 124, led by Lieutenant Peter Ganci, responded to Brooklyn Box 706. Engine 237 called for a full first alarm assignment on the box due to a working fire. I lost my spot.
The fire was on the top
The
floor.
fire was on the top floor, rear of a 25 by 50 foot wood frame multiple dwelling. Fire was extending into the public hallway. There were shouts from civilians that there were kids in there. Lieutenant Ganci and his forceful entry team quickly climbed the stairway. There was no front door to the apartment. Interesting. And fire was belching out into the public hallway. Lieutenant Ganci sent 2 firefighters from Ladder 124 to the adjoining apartment to breach a wall in an attempt to rescue. Engine 237 started aggressively pushing their hose line into the flat with the knowledge that there were kids trapped inside. Lieutenant Ganci from Ladder 124 advanced with them. Suddenly, Lieutenant Ganci saw an opening and he crawled under the flames to advance deeper into the apartment. He found that a 5.5-year-old girl, Lydia Perez, in the second bedroom he searched. He made his way to the fire escape with Lydia. She was not breathing. Lieutenant Ganci started mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on her, and he handed Lydia to Ladder 24's outside bed firefighter, John Heist. Lieutenant Ganci continued to operate in the flat and assisted his forceful entry team in removing a different victim through the breached wall. Lieutenant Peter J. Ganci Jr. was awarded a Class 3, which is an act of unusual personal risk, and the Battalion Chief Frank T. Tuttlemondo Medal for his actions at Brooklyn Box 706. Ironically, Lieutenant Ganci's good friend Al Turri was awarded the Battalion Chief Frank Tuttlemondo Medal the previous year. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
That was the fire that I was just talking about in the pre-show. Dan Buckite called me. He said he was the chauffeur at that job, and that I told you that was the guy who actually lit the fire. That was his kids.
Really?
He was trying to get out a guy who was, for lack of a better term, stooping his old lady who was up there. And
is that a lack of a better term? No way.
Doodling.
Better than throwing an F-bomb.
Dude, I hear what you said.
All right, But supposedly the guy like crawled out the window and went window to window and then jumped off the building. And that was what he called me today with. Yeah.
Hey, Chief G, let me ask you a question. Did you ever feel like those were pretty big shoes that you had to fill? Like thinking that what your father did on this job, like,
I could never. And then me and Pete, we talk about it. It's heavy to where the reputation is. You never want to sully his reputation or do something that would hurt him. So I always felt, and Pete as well, is you got to do it cleaner, better. Take everything in and do everything the best of your ability to try to uphold. You're never going to fill his shoes. We could never go to as many fires as any of those guys did before.
No.
And like you said something in the pregame about. You talk about another firefighter. You were talking about it and how my dad would be Patty Brown. You were talking about Patty Brown, and you're talking about that quote you just said. Like my dad would blush if you compared himself to Patty Brown. Like Patty Brown was that type of guy, And me and Pete, like the same way. Like in terms of like I was when I was in probie school, I wanted to be the valedictorian for one reason. I just wanted to give the speech because my dad's favorite thing he did all year was give the probie school speech because he loved talking to the young guys.
Right.
And that was my whole goal. And I have 20 years on the job now. That was one of the proudest moments I ever got was to do that. And I just remember thinking I could never be Pete Ganci. When I first got on the job, I'm like, study, go through the ranks, try to match him. Impossible. And I don't even want to do that anymore. I can't even try to do that. I can just try to be the best fireman that I can be, my brother the same way, and just take care of the guys. That's all he would want. It's hard to live up to these guys, especially now that, these guys are gone and you could build up their reputations even more. And I have to thank you just for doing this because it's such a charge to sit here. Everybody can talk about their dad. I love talking about my father. You don't get the opportunity to do it as much. But, being a New York City fireman, I get it now. Like, I get it. I got it pretty much soon afterwards. But, in terms of trying to be him, impossible. You can't be him. Be the best at what you do. And if someone says something about my career, they could say, Chief Ganci's a good chief. Like, we feel better on the fire ground when he's there. Like, or my guys, as a company officer, like, well, when a captain's working, or when I was a lieutenant, like when he's working, we feel better. He takes care of us.
He's always got my back. Yeah.
That's how I feel like I live up to his standard. And I know my brother does the same thing. Like he takes care of his men first. And that's the first thing that like my father instilled in us when we were young. Is like take responsibility, do the right thing, like all those things that like, as soon as you walk in a firehouse, the guys are teaching you from the minute you get in. It's like do the right thing, keep your mouth shut. You got 2 ears, you got one mouth, like all those things. And like same thing, like like I know, like as a chief, like I'm lucky. I guess I was telling you before, like I'm in 19th Battalion, and I'm Phil Jackson with Kobe and Shaq. I got the best companies. Guys are awesome, and so my job is really easy. I say it's easy, but to feel good, this rank is the best because you get to watch the guys do their thing, and you really appreciate how awesome the guys on this job are. They will go through anything. They will do anything for you if you ask them to do it. And I always marvel at that, and that's a huge responsibility. You cannot take that for granted. And as a company officer or a chief, like that is something you cannot waste. You have to take it extremely seriously because you're putting all these guys' lives in jeopardy, and you have to make sure that you get them home at the end of the day. So like that, how do I uphold his reputation? That's what you do, right? That's what you do. And I'm lucky enough, I got to work on like Chief Jonas up in the 7th Division, a legend like that. So like Chief Fink, all the other chiefs, like I have the opportunity to work with up there. Like really, like I always joke around, like I don't deserve to be in the conversation with a lot of those guys. Like I turn around at fire, sometimes I turn around and I go, wow, I got this guy, I got that guy. Like I'm safe, I'm good. you know, and especially like being in the 19th Battalion, I got 33 truck, I got 75 engine.
Right.
Like I just have to sit back and like just let the men do what the men do. But at the end of the day, like you have to make sure that they get home. So like, you know, how do you uphold my father's reputation? How do I live up to that? Do that, you know. And if you do that, then you had a good career.
Right. I mean, even going into Proby school though, the name Ganci, you had to know they're like they're gonna look at you as soon as you come in, like, oh, yeah,
Oh, he's testing. He's getting tested. Like,
yeah,
wow.
right from the beginning, right?
3 days, right? They tell you the first day, the 3 days, you're on honor, right? Right, you're an all-star, or you're the third one, right? Don't be the asshole, right? That's it. So, like, again, you can't hide from it in Proby school. Like, you got a big name stamped on your forehead, and the guys that love my father, like, they're not gonna make it easy for me. Like I love the guy like a brother, Brendan Iope, from what he said.
Yeah.
Mike Schweiger, like these guys, like
Schweiger.
Best fireman hands down I've worked with, like in the New York City Fire Department. Guy's gigantic and just amazing fireman. But like Brendan, like I love him, like not make it easy. And I made it stupid for myself. I used to say dumb things, a lot of dumb things. So they used to call them Ganciisms. And then they used to write them.
We had Galtierisms. We had those in the firehouse.
And they went up the wall, and I go over the wall, and I went down, and they just kept going like this around the kitchen. And they would call my wife up at home and ask me, but they made it hard for me, you know. And like these are guys who like I have nothing but respect and love for now.
That could be. I would say that again. I haven't been all around the job, but I would say 157, 290, 103. Those are tough kitchens to be in, especially forget about as a probie, and then to have your name like that. You know what I mean? And you know, Iope probably went through that before. I don't know when he was on before. How much was he there before you?
5 years. So yeah, and he did it. He was there for the big one. So like, he did it. He experienced it, and then he ended up just like making sure I. But I tell you what, if I ever had any issues, you'd be the first guy I would call. One of the first guys, you have my back, like every single time. Like they make it hard and they break it down, but at the end of the day, they love you, And like I always 157 was my firehouse, 255 was my first firehouse. So obviously, you have love for those guys, but they did not make it easy for me. And the fact that I was Pete Ganci's kid, they felt that they would be doing him a disservice by giving me any special treatment, and they did not. Special treatment at all. My wife around my mom, they're like, why do you love those guys so much? And I'd be like, I was like a bad
tough.
You would leave, like you would be like a bad boy. You would leave, and then 25 minutes after you left, you'd be like, pick up the phone, hey guys, there's a fire on Clarendon Road, like terrible, like an abusive relationship. But again, at the end of the day, like I got broken in by those guys, and like they didn't treat me any differently because I was Pete Ganci's kid. In fact, they probably treated me a little bit harder, which is good because I needed a little bit of thicker skin at the end of the day. And maybe like I joined the fire department for different reasons, but at the end, I found what I was supposed to be doing, and that's the greatest gift that my father ever gave me. So, like I always joke around. Like I met my wife because I wrote this children's book and I read it to her school. So, like that was something amazing.
Oh shit! Really? That's great.
Wow. And the fact I'm a New York City fireman sitting here talking about this, is a gift that he gave me. And Chief Jonas will talk like we could talk to any fireman at any time about anything. Think about what Thanksgiving's like with like me, my brother, my brother-in-law. Like it's sometimes the people who are on the outside of the fire department don't get when you're like, oh, this was a good job. Yeah, it's a good job. Yeah, 3 people died. Like 3 people died. You're saying it's a good job? Like are you insane? Like, no, that's not what we mean, But that's the kind of jargon where we grew up with stuff.
Yeah,
in my
good
house.
job.
Yeah. And I always remember, the smell. I always associate the smell. Like, there's a lot of the olfactory sense. I think is the strongest for memory. So the hugging him when he'd come in from work, and always smoke, had that smoke, always. Like I always remember that growing up. And now when you smell it, like when you come in for a day tour in the morning and then they had a good job the night before and the whole firehouse smells like that.
Man.
It's funny. That's funny, Chief, because my dad passed away when I was young. I was 9, but he worked sanitation. Not that he stunk, but I remember like his clothes smelled musty when I hugged him when he came in the door all the time. Like I do remember that like smell of like, and I can imagine, like for you, to have him come in, smelling like smoke all the time. I mean, everywhere he worked, he had to be going to job after job after job every day.
He got hurt a couple of times. Like I remember my mom always tells the story, like we joke around about it, like you didn't get mutuals when it's like 1976 and 70, 78, 79. It wasn't like, oh, Stan's working for me. It's like, this is your group number. This is when you work. And so I remember like my mom would be like, yeah, your dad dropped me off at the hospital. I was in labor. I went to work for the night. I think it was my brother Pete, because the guys like in the morning, they're like, hey, Pete, congratulations. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, you had a boy last night. He's like, what? But that's what kind of a saint my mother was, growing up. I like, it was
that's another level right there, bro. That's another level right there.
He just bought a house and he had fallen off a roof and burned his hands like terribly. Like, so hands were like going, like, he was in the burn center, and my mom is moving into the house at the time, and she's pregnant with my brother Pete, and like, but these were the things that, like, I mean, you're a tough person if you can put up with this lifestyle, and who we marry and who we let into our lives.
You got to share them. They got to share you now, bro.
Oh, they gotta, like I said before, like my wife's a saint too. Like, well, everybody we marry, like sometimes you stay out, like, you're in a firehouse.
You take it for granted.
Yeah, I mean, you used to do 24s at home, and I'd be in a firehouse for every other, like for most of the time. So I digress. I'm talking up all the time here. I apologize.
No, it's good, man. Good stuff.
So you mentioned, sorry, Chief Jonas, you mentioned the book. And like I mentioned earlier, I read that book in the second grade many years ago when it, a few years after it came out.
Many years ago, what, like 10 years ago?
Fair enough. 2007.
What year?
2007.
Oh,
so,
my God.
That's why we love him. That's why I love him.
There's a great story in there about, and I'm not sure if he was a chief at this point, but I do know he was a fire officer, and you could expand on it, Chris, or chief, I should say, where to teach the guys a lesson, they left the rig unsupervised.
Sorry.
He takes the rig, drives down the street.
So this is a really good story. So like I always tell this story too, because I used to work for Merck, and I had a company car, and I always used to like joke around. This happened to me in that particular situation, but there's more backstory to this story, because my dad always had to do the negative press conferences. So like he would always be marched up there, like, and I'm not throwing shade, but it's easy when you have someone above you to tell you to do these things. Like, you can do the positive ones, and then this guy's got to do the negative ones. So there was a fire in a place where I'm very familiar with, South Jamaica houses, and a child passed away or got injured, and the company trained chauffeur. The school trained chauffeur at the time was tapped out, and the company was out of service, and they didn't respond. So the media made a really big deal over it, right? So like, and the union, there was like back and forth with the union. And my father went, again, because he had to be on TV, and all he said was, I'm disappointed. No one has ever been reprimanded on this job for doing their job. People call us, they expect us to come. I'm just disappointed. Like that's all he said. And that's from the heart. Like I think that's how most of us would feel, is that, we get the rig to the scene and we operate. Like that's how we do it, and I'm not denigrating them, because I love those guys and they're amazing firemen. And I'm not saying it was a decision that they made. This is just how it turned out. So there's two parts to this. The first one is, fireman calls my house at 11 something at night and just starts berating my mom, cursing at her, like terribly, and hangs up the phone. My brother's like, he was there, and he's like, what was that? And my mom's like, I don't know, somebody was cursing at me, screaming at me about about dad. So my brother picked up the phone, star 69'd it, ladder, boop, 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 engine, boop, 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 firefighter so-and-so. Oh, you just called the chief of the department's house. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Click, hangs up. Phone rings at 7:30 in the morning. Can I speak to Chief Ganci? Yes. Picks up the phone. Chief, I want to apologize. I let my emotions get the better of me. It was an emotional time. I want to apologize to you. It was none of the men here. It was me and me only. My father goes, I get it. I understand it. He goes, just do me a favor. Apologize to my wife. He gives the phone to my mom. Wow. My dad says, case closed. Don't ever mention it again. And hangs up the phone. That was it. I never held it against him. He was nice. Never did anything. It's just how he got it. He understood. So a couple of weeks later, Kenny Sorrento's a staff chief. He's retiring, and he was having his retirement party at Pete's Ale House, which is, where that is? Like next to the River Cafe down on Old Fulton Street, next to the pizza place, like next to Patsy's. Do you know where that is? You can walk down like from Metro Tech. It's only a couple, I guess it's 4 blocks, not far. So a lot of the guys we stop there, obviously, will come back from training. It's got great pizza, right? Patsy's or Grimaldi's or whatever it's called now. So my dad and Niagara are walking down there, and they see 21 truck just sitting out in the middle of the street. Nobody watching it. They must have been at training. They must have been wherever. And my dad, fresh on his mind that, saying that nobody can drive these things. My dad gets in. Now, the funny thing is, my father was fashionable, but I think he owned one suit. So everything was his uniform. When Commissioner Niagara was a straight man, like you guys, Commissioner Niagara.
He's got
his suit every day of the week.
He's got the glasses to match the suit. Yeah.
So together, so my dad's like, oh, we got to mess with these guys. So he gets in a rig. Now, Dan asked my dad, he's like, when's the last time you drove one of these, Pete? He's like, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years. How different could it be, So to get in, he starts it. He's like, all right, gets down, does a 3-point turn down at the end, goes back past Pat. Guys come running out. He goes up the hill. They're chasing him. They're like they don't know what the hell's going on. He's like, all right, so what do we do here? We either take it to somebody else's quarters and ransom it. We take it back to their quarters and surprise them. He goes, we don't have time for this. We want to go hang out. So they like slowing down. I remember like guys are like running up and he'd get close and then he would hit the gas.
Your friends.
He ends up stopping it. And his story goes, thank God they came to my side and not Danny Niagara's side. Because I'm wearing the stars. He goes, the Niagara's wearing a suit. They would have dragged him out and beat him down in the middle of Old Fulton Street, because they come to my side. They make it halfway up and they look in the mirror and they can see the 5 stars. And he goes in there like complete shock. And they get out, he gets out and he looks at him. He's like, man, I don't know what the news is in the union is saying. He goes, anybody can drive one of these things. They continue to walk down the old Fulton Street. He goes, 21 truck was so shaken up. He goes, they get in an accident on the way back to
Oh my God! No, come on.
Because their mind was completely blown, and I always laugh because I worked for Merck and I had a company car, and I'm like, imagine the CEO of Merck coming along and stealing my car. So that was him, though. Like that was the kind of stuff. Look, he never wanted to get guys like jammed up or in trouble. If he could teach a guy a lesson with doing something, do it like. And that was him though. Like he always loved to be mischievous and get his and he had that smile where you couldn't get mad at him. He would just kind of like he would have a laugh, like an infectious laugh, and he would just look at you and you were like, all right, there's nothing you could do about it. But just what a funny like practical
That's
joke.
pretty funny, man. The fact that guy called your dad, that's what set the whole thing square, right? He called, he was sincere. Your dad understood it and was able to that was it.
And I don't know if I could do that. I got to tell you, I don't know if I could do that. Somebody fucking calls up and curses at my wife.
And ironically, where do I end up I'm UFO captain there for 3 years, and I love that place. Love them. I mean, the guys are the best. You think your career in your hand when you work there, but guys, phenomenal operators and great firemen, great guys. But you could understand the tempo. Like after me working there, I could see that happening here. 11 o'clock at night. Hey Joe, hey Mike, what'd be funny? Let's call this guy.
You don't have a hair on your ass.
You don't got a hair on your ass if you don't call the chief of the department right now.
That never works.
Great idea at 11 o'clock at night, not a great idea at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God. How many guys could you go into doing that when you say you don't have a hair on your ass?
Oh man, yeah.
That's like a 90%.
Yeah. Oh, I had to call Ganci at home. Oh yeah, I don't believe you would, bro. You don't got a hair on your ass.
Oh my God.
The old challenge.
It was all business when it was like on the fire ground, like all business like that. So I joke around because these are like the parts I really miss and love about them, with like the approachable, warm, smart, funny parts. But like at a fire, like dialed in. Like I mean, and I see guys on the fire ground like that who you like in the kitchen, they're like, but on a fire ground, they got it, And especially when you hear chiefs and we all want to be the calmest guy on the radio, all of us like that. I think we aspire to be guys like Chief Jonas is the amount of time like when you listen to him on the radio, like everybody listens. It's like that's what we try to emulate as company officers. Is like if I'm the calmest guy in the room, then everybody else is calm, and everything kind of ends up working out right. And I know that was his MO. Like just be the calmest guy. And part of that meant like never taking yourself too seriously, because the minute you take yourself seriously and you point the stars, you kind of lose the credibility with the men. And at the end of the day, like we have the luxury and and the privilege of being company officers. The firemen run the job. They are the job. Like, from the guys that do the rigs in the morning, the checking the rigs, and the operators, like, I talk on a radio. Like, that's my tool. Like, I do the best I can in putting guys in certain spots. But at the end of the day, they're the one going in and doing this and doing that. Like, so, like, and he never, ever lost track of that. And that's what I think made him so special. Like, and like I talked about before, his favorite thing was probie school, was talking to the men. And I love that. And I know Chief Jonas could probably say the same thing, which, like, when you get a new guy in the firehouse and he goes to his first fire, like, I find myself going to find the little, the ticket, and you're like, oh, put this away, like, do this. So, like trust me, write this down. You're gonna want to. Like, years from now, like this, like, and I like to see their face. Like, was it rolling over your head? Was it doing this? What do you feel? What do you see? Because, like, we're all buffs. Like, that's what we are. That's why we do this job. And he never lost that. He loved it.
It's mine, bro. Somebody told me to do that. My first ticket ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a little book. Like, I didn't do it. Like, I should have done it when I was a fireman. I think I started when I was a captain or lieutenant. And I was like, guys, they went to 1 million fires. You need books and books and books for guys keeping the amount of tickets that those guys went to. But I love the young guys getting on a job and talking to the guys that are really into it, because, like, when you lose hope and you say, well, the world's changing, the fire department's changing, this is changing. Well, let me tell you, I go to fire with 42 engine, and I got 3 young guys on the line, and they do some job putting out 2 floors of fire.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And you get back, you're like, bro, the job's awesome. The job's awesome. It doesn't matter what color you are, what sex you are, who you like to go home with at night. It doesn't matter. Like,
nobody cares.
You do your job, and you love the fire department, and I love the fire department. Guess what? Like, we can meet right here, and we can talk about all these things, and it's amazing. Like, I don't care. Like, you make it
say that all the time. Nobody cares when you're going down the basement and they're behind you. Nobody cares, bro.
Yeah, like, you do a good job. Like, and like, one of the things, like, we can all, I think, test to, and everybody who's into the fire department, the greatest thing you can feel on this job is when somebody else appreciates what you do on this job. So, like, if the guys you really want to emulate on this job, they give you the attaboy, like,
oh, yeah.
Like, I had Donnie Wunderlich. I don't know if you guys know Donzo. Donzo, DI, right? So he was in 157, right? And Donzo, like, I love the guy, like, but he would bring terror to a lot of guys. I mean, terrifying. And 157 was a place where it was a bloodbath a lot of times. And, like, you would mess up and you would hear from every group. And it was before cell phones. So this group came in and it would grow. This mistake you made would grow and grow and grow and grow. And I remember, like, feeling as low as I could be. And Donnie Wunderlich would come up and give me a pep talk. And I never forget it. Like, he would do it all the time. And this was, like, one of the meanest guys on a fire ground, in a firehouse. I love him. But, like those are the things, like, I remember I would always be like, man, this is the right profession, right choice. Like, there are guys like this out here who I think are phenomenal firemen. If that guy thinks I did a good job or this or that, and thinks I'm worth something, then, like those are the things that would push me. Well, I know that push, like, guys like my dad, like, let's push that on these young guys. That's what our job's the best fire department in the world, is because we had guys like that who would push the younger guys to keep up the traditions.
You wanted to make those guys proud. I mean, they were like your dad in a way, you know what I mean? Like, you wanted, whatever firehouse you were in, your senior guy or your captain or your boss or whoever you emulated, like you said, that was the most important thing you could do, or something that is to let that guy down, right? That's the last thing you want to do. So you were trying everything, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And
as long as the guy's behind you going into the basement, in the sub-cellar, I'm out.
And if you fucked up, you felt terrible for letting them down, which a lot of people don't. On a lot of jobs today, people don't give a shit about. I mean, they don't care about their job, which is amazing to me. Like, it's always...
the pride you have of wearing the shirt, like if you're in the airport and somebody sees you, or, like, look, we love our shirts. And, like, my wife jokes around, this is the only laundry we have, a fire department blue shirt.
Yeah, hell yeah.
If you die on this job, you're not getting a blue t-shirt. You're getting a gray one. I'm like, come on, but amongst other things that, but it's, you're proud of wearing this, being part of this organization and your firehouse. Like, if you screwed up, like, I remember, like, we used to talk about roof jobs and cutting holes in the roof, and, like, we go drill on a building the next day. And, we always drilling on a building the next day. And you go up the roof and there's holes all over the place. And we used to talk, still in the roof, guys. Guys, if you're gonna leave, this is the one piece of evidence that everybody gets to see. So if you're representing 157 and you're up here and there's holes all over the place, you didn't do your job, and then you embarrassed Rogers Avenue, and then that was the worst thing that could happen. So again, but these are the kind of things where he never lost that type of stuff, and he instilled it in guys. To me, that's how I like to live, and how I treat my men up in the 19th Battalion.
Got a video here from the 90s. I know we have to get back to the newsletter, but I found it on YouTube because I remember seeing it some time ago of the chief providing a briefing at a fire. And you could just hear the calm that Chief Ganci was talking about earlier. Play it really quick.
Emergency medical technicians treating scores of subway passengers, from infants to the elderly, trapped on board 2 trains, the A and C trains, stalled near the East New York subway station for about an hour. Combating panic among passengers trapped on smoky subway cars was the job for riders like Robert Castro, while firefighters battled the blaze.
The fire area itself was approximately 25 by 100, which would be a large fire above ground. Down below ground, it's extremely difficult.
Cause of the...
I never saw that before.
Young there.
Yeah.
Yeah, great head of hair.
We're gone. I knew you were going to go to there.
I didn't get that.
Let's go back to the newsletter, Chief. Where we at?
All right. Okay. We're about to have Captain Ganci. He stayed in the books. He was promoted to the rank of captain June 25th, 1983. He would be assigned as a new company commander of Ladder 18 on the Lower East Side of Manhattan on May 5th, 1984. And like I said in the previously, they loved him. He was there only for a short time, but he made such an impression on him, and that they would frequently say that Pete Ganci was our captain. Pete's time in Ladder 18 was relatively short. Captain Ganci would be promoted to battalion chief August 29th, 1987. So he's only assigned there for 3 years. His new assignment was Battalion 57 in Brooklyn. While assigned to Battalion 57, he made 2 longtime friendships. He took a young lieutenant named Bob Sweeney, who was assigned to Engine 235,
Sweeney Bob,
under his wing. He taught him many lessons of leadership and how to be an effective officer. Bob Sweeney would later serve as Chief Ganci's executive officer when he was promoted to Chief of Operations. One of my fellow graduates of Proby School, Bob Sweeney.
Wasn't he chief of department too, Sweeney?
No. Chief Ops.
Oh, chief of ops.
Yeah. And he later became commissioner of Yonkers.
Right.
Uncle Bob.
Yeah. Another friendship that was forged during the Chief Ganci's time in Battalion 57 was with another newly promoted battalion chief in the neighboring 2-8 Battalion, Dan Nigro. Chief Nigro would serve as chief of operations when Pete Ganci was chief of department. Pete Ganci would be promoted to deputy chief on June 26, 1993. He was quickly scooped up and promoted to deputy assistant chief on June 1st, 1995. He was designated as the chief of the Bureau of Fire Investigation. It is the first time in recent memory that a uniformed chief was put in charge of the BFI. Pete Ganci was promoted to assistant chief on August 14, 1996, and was designated chief of operations. On October 1st, 1999, Pete was promoted to the chief of the department.
Wow.
So once he hit that career,
Pretty neat rise, huh?
he was on his way. Yeah. So recognized talent when I saw it.
I guess so.
That's what I remember hearing. I mean, I got on in 93, but I remember when he was the chief of department, obviously when we became the squad in 98. Right. And then he was at the Father's Day fire. I remember that.
That hurt him emotionally. Like we used to talk about how he had 10,000 kids. That's how he felt. Like he would always come home. I remember like Vandalia Avenue, or he would always come in. How many kids? He would just talk about the kids and the widows. And I remember Father's Day really hurt him. And like if you had talked to Dennis Conway, like he was where the breach was. He was like in the hole with the guys, like while they're breaching. And guys had always wearing flip-flops. He was not wearing flip-flops, but he was wearing street clothes. Like, and he was down in the hall, and guys are like, Chief, like, we got it. Like, we're doing what we can do, But that's how he felt. He took it so personally when his guys got hurt. That's why, like, me and Pete talk about if he would have survived September 11th. And I know we'll probably get to September 11th in a little while, but he wouldn't have survived September 11th. He would have taken it all on his shoulders.
343 of his own kids, like you say,
and kids and guys that he worked with, guys' sons that he worked with. Michael Boyle, Michael Boyle's story. Like, so everybody likes going to Atlantic City in May for the UFA,
Yeah.
Right? So my dad's there, and Michael Boyle, Michael Boyle, Jimmy Boyle's kid from Fort Truck, Jimmy Boyle's kid, Michael. So Michael's working a bar station. It's like 2 a.m, and the other guy's from 16 and 7. I always forget his name. Slevin, maybe it was Slevin. So my dad's there in street clothes, and the other guy didn't recognize me. My dad lights up a cigar. This guy turns around to him, and he's like, "Oh, did you bring enough for the rest of us here?" Like, and he's like, he turns out, looks at Michael Boyle, who he knew, and he's like, "Michael, who the fuck is this guy?" Just like that. The guy turns around. Now he knows he stepped in it. He turns around to Michael. He goes, "Michael, who the fuck is this guy?" So Michael's like, "Kev, where do you work now?" He's like, 16 and 7. He's like, "No, you don't."
You used to work there.
So I always remember that, like, that story. Like, maybe it makes me laugh. Like a picture of him.
He always smoked.
You know what? He quit for my daughter. My sister. My sister started smoking, and they used to share cigarettes all the time. And then I think he felt terrible that she was smoking, so he decided he was going to quit. And I think he quit like that May. So right before Father's Day. Like, and no one, he enjoyed smoking. He liked smoking. Who doesn't? I mean, look, we were all ignorant and didn't know what cigarettes did to us. Everybody would smoke. We love smoking. Yeah. In the world, coming out of a fire with a dangle hanging out of
a dangle.
Well, while you're overhauling.
Mike Cummings from 120 Truck was a lieutenant 157. Smoking fire. Crazy.
But when I was a probie, we had a real good job. I was in 46 engine, and there was a detail from 27 Truck, a senior guy, Frankie Adkins, and we were there by ourselves. We picked it up as a verbal. We saw it on the way back from getting the meal, and it was on Clay Avenue, and we finished. We got relieved. It ended up being a second alarm, and we're sitting on the back step of the pumper, and we really took a shellacking, and I see Frankie Atkins go into his shirt pocket and pull out a cigarette and light the cigarette. And I looked at him, and I'm a probie, and he's got about 15 years on the job. I looked at him and said, "You got to be fucking kidding me."
Yeah. Nope.
He said, "You're not a smoker, are you?" I said, "No."
That's like that's like one of my best cigarettes. One after coffee in the morning, and one after a second bag.
Well, that's what he said. He said,
the guy breathe in the last 24 hours.
He said, "Then you'll never know." You
work with Mike Cummings.
This is the best tasting cigarette I'll have all day. So,
Louis, did you ever work with Mike Cummings in 120 Truck? He went to Brooklyn. Oh, him and Dennis Gordon.
I know Dennis. Yeah, Dennis. I had to know him. I know Cummings.
So Mike was a chauffeur 120 seated guy, but he was a lieutenant 157, and it's fire savant, little tiny leather helmet, like a peanut burned to a crisp. I mean, phenomenal fireman, phenomenal.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about now.
He used to chew his cigarettes. He would chew them, like chew the filter, like all the way down. And like he said, he started smoking at 37, but he was continually smoking cigarettes all the time. The guy never wore a mask. And Schwager used to joke around. He'd be like, "You know how he can breathe in a fire?" I mean, what? He goes, "He swallowed so many filters. They lined his trachea."
They're filtering it out.
But yeah, he liked to smoke. Cool. See, he enjoyed it, and like I'm pretty sure nobody smokes at Metrotech in their office, but he did. And
good for him, dude. I can't believe I'm learning so much of it. You know a guy, you don't really know a guy. You know what I mean? That's why these shows are great, man. I swear to God.
That was I'm friends with Richie Blattis, and he was a newly promoted battalion chief, and he was detailed to headquarters, and he says those are great times in the morning and at night, seeing these guys all together and talking. It was
Stevie
special,
Ramos,
special time.
Danny Nigro, Al Torrey, and then Dennis Moriarty was there for a little while. He was chief of personnel. Maybe it was after or before, but staff chiefs. Patty Burns is
Donald
chief.
Burns,
Donald Burns, Frank Crothers, all these, and I love Frank Crothers, but they would make fun of him because he was so straight. They would just, but he would have.
I would love to be a fly on the wall with some
Oh,
of those.
I wasn't a flyman, but I would go there. I told you, but my dad would. Chief Nigro was very sophisticated, so I would be going to some fancy 5-star restaurant, but I hated the food, so I'd be eating McDonald's or something. And my dad would always stick it to Chief Nigro, Chris, tell Danny where you're eating tonight. And I'd be like, Las Penas. And he goes, and you're having McNuggets? And I would be I'm like, I'm not eating that stuff. He would just sit there, but it was funny. So he had this file cabinet. Now, this was in an era where, you do favors for guys, you do hooks. They knew we drank scotch. So, it was always flush. The cabinet was pulled out, and it was just from wall to wall of a lot of the guys would bring him or whatever, and everybody knew it was there. So as soon as everybody would leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it was all right, grab the ice bucket, and everybody would be sitting around. And
That's awesome.
And Joe Callan, I would just sit there and I'd watch these guys talk to each other. I was lucky; it was a phenomenal experience for me.
Oh my God, you ain't kidding!
And just watching them bust each other. I mean, the same you're in a firehouse, at the kitchen table. This was the kitchen table.
It never leaves you.
I was just going to say that, Coop. It can't, in my mind, I think that these guys are up there, figuring everything out, and they're just, it's switched off.
Well, how much are we going to make on the budget this year? Hey, fuck you, Nigro!
When my dad's attitude towards the staff was the best 2 ranks on the fire department are fireman and battalion chief. He would say that all the time. He'd be fireman's the best. He goes, battalion chief, yeah, you have just enough. You still get to get dirty with the men, and you still get to get in firehouse, but you still get some command, and you do these things. But you go to deputy and beyond because you worked in busy places. You felt an obligation to the New York City Fire Department to give back, to be an experienced person, to give back all those things. Now, the thing is, once you go staff, that's your firehouse. Now you bring your friends. Now you get all your guys, you talk your friends into, hey, do me a favor, come down here, do this, be this guy, do this, do this. And then what you end up doing is you're having your own firehouse full of like-minded guys.
Yeah.
And going to Metrotech is not such a chore anymore because now you get to go hang out and you get to go work with Bobby Sweeney, or you get to go work with Dan Imo, all these other guys that you worked with for 20 years, 30 years, in other parts of the city. So that's how he viewed things. Now he came home and he was tired. You could see it. He worked.
They work crazy hours, man.
Crazy. I mean, he would always, and Steve drove him. So Steve would drive him, and so but he would sleep in a car sometimes on the way home, and then he'd be completely shot. And when he'd get home, we didn't get much of him at the end like that.
Right.
And guys talk about could he have retired? He had job offers all over the place to beat things and do things. And he just said he wanted to stick it out because Pete had just gone on a job, and he wanted to see Pete, develop into the career. And he loved being a fireman. So I never think that he was really ever going to entertain that. Even at the time when, I don't know, how the politics work, when you're the acting and you're the provisional, then once they promote you from that rank, you become tenured. So a lot of guys don't know, the last tenured chief of the department, we gave away that rank now. The UFOA bargained it away, where it used to be a test for the chief of the department, and there was the 1 and 3 rule. Right. So you had to come in first, second, and third, and then you were at the discretion of the commissioner to who you were going to pick. So my dad was the chief of ops, and he came in second out of the 3. So I think Artie Paranello, came in first. So he was one of the 3, and I remember him coming home going, I don't know if he was going to be, I don't know if I'm going to be that guy. And I go, Dad, you've been doing this job for 3 years. Do you want it? And he's like, well, yeah. I go, then you march into the commissioner's office and you tell him, hey, you know what? I think I'm the best guy for this. And the next day he went and talked to the commission, and Von Essen, to his credit, was like, Pete, you were my only choice. You were my guy. So by doing that, my dad got tenured. And I remember my father telling me, He goes, because it's not really a known legal rule, but he went back into Commissioner Von Essen's office and said, look, Tom, I'm just telling you, by promoting me to chief of department, now you tenure me. So if you want to take this back and give it to somebody else, I understand. And Commissioner Von Essen, to his credit, was like, Pete, you're my guy. So my dad was there in a catbird seat. He could have stayed as long as he wanted. He could have done as many things as he wanted, but he was honorable in that way, where
hell yeah, bro.
He didn't want to force the hand of the commissioner, and it seemed like he was underhanded to anybody. But that's the kind of guy he was. Like, he was a real, true, working in a mail room to being the, CEO of the company guy in the fire department. He really went through every experience on the New York City Fire Department, from the bottom to the top, and he never ever forgot who he was and his values that brought him onto the job, and that basically were developed over time, over his 33-year career.
Can't take the fire out of the man, bro. Still a fireman, no matter what rank. Can't take the fire out of the man, right? He's just fucking.
Not at all.
Yeah,
I did want to ask you this, Chief Ganci. We saw Commissioner Feehan in that photo when he was getting sworn in, and there was another FDNY lifer. And I remember a story that Tom Von Essen told me years ago where he's like, they were talking after Von Essen had become commissioner, and the only condition Mayor Giuliani told Von Essen was, you have to keep Bill Feehan. And Commissioner Von Essen, to his credit, said, that's the condition. I was going to beg the guy to stay. So with Feehan being the number 2 and Chief Ganci being the chief of department, I imagine, naturally they had a great working relationship. I'll ask you, what was Chief Ganci's relationship like with Commissioner Feehan?
It's funny because, ironically, now I'm in the 19th Battalion, and Brian Davin is Chief Feehan's son-in-law. Yeah. So we work together, which is and I work with John Feehan a bunch of times.
Yeah, I was pretty good friends with John when we got on the job.
And I've met Bill a million times before I was on the job, and what just an unbelievable human being, and knowledgeable, wealth of knowledge. We used to say, Chief Burns was probably one of the smartest people who ever on a job. Well, Chief Feehan was the same kind of just been there, done it. Chief Feehan used to call himself Chief all the time when he used to answer the phone. So he used to drive a lot of people crazy, but my dad would just be like, he's a chief. He earned it. If that's what he's the chief. Even though he's the first deputy commish, guys, first deputies are appointed, but chiefs are, you earn it.
I got you.
So my old man never bothered him, Chief Feehan considered him, said chief, he was the chief. He was the chief of department at a previous time.
He started out as in the fire patrol.
Yeah.
One of 6 men to hold every rank.
Every rank. And just a smart. If you listen to a lot of those speeches that he gave, you talk about guys, we joke around about sometimes when my dad used to when they'd interview the one guy on the fire ground who couldn't speak, and my dad was
it's like a Neanderthal caveman.
That's when Bill Feehan spoke, it was like in a poet speaking. It was just so eloquent, and beautiful, and the imagery that he could espouse to people. Right. Conversation. That one talk, it's on YouTube. Anybody can find it. It's probably his most famous interview that he's talking about. I get the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, because I'm like, wow, that's how I view the fire service. But I've never put it into words beautiful poetry, when somebody like him,
Abe Lincoln,
and could say it
what's going on 7 years ago,
could give speeches without reading, having notes, could just go off the cuff and talk. That's a true talent to be able to do that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Bill was a fatherly figure, and it was, I don't want to say ironic that they both died right next to each other. They were killed right next to each other. They found Bill and my dad at the exact same time, so they were together. And I'm sure we'll touch on September 11th later, but after the first building came down, it landed on 2 World Financial, which is where the command post was on that driveway coming down. And now you have a couple of hundred guys missing, and then you have a couple of hundred guys now in the other building, and they need to regroup. So my father sent Stevie Masiello, got me a new command post 3 blocks south. I need trucks, ladders, all this stuff. And Bill and my dad walked back to where the old command post was together. And then when the building came down, they got killed together. So I always think wow. They're together, forever. And it's funny because now I work with Brian Davin, and we talk about it every once in a while. And he goes, isn't it strange? I don't say strange, but fate that me and you were here together, and my father-in-law and
wow.
your dad,
yeah.
spent their last seconds together in that spot, you know.
Mhm.
So like I think he's one of the like he said something so profound once where he you know, and I stole it from him, and I have to always give him credit, but like the door goes up, right? We respond. It's the one thing we do right. We've always done right, and if we get that right, then we're going to be fine, you know. And that's what it is. It's
Wow.
they call us, the door goes up, we
Big
go
red
out.
door goes up, the big red door goes down.
Everything usually works out at the end of the day, you know.
All right, Chief, let's get back to the timeline, sir.
Okay. June 17, 2001. We just talked about it. It was Father's Day. Pete Ganci was enjoying his family at home. In the afternoon, he was notified of a bad fire in Queens. There were firefighters trapped. He and Deputy Assistant Chief Al Turri, who was the chief of safety, responded together from home. They arrived at the scene and saw how difficult the fire was. Fireman Harry Ford and John Downing were trapped under a collapsed wall. Fireman Brian Fahey was missing in the cellar. Chief of Department Ganci saw the difficulty the firefighters were having finding Brian Fahey. Chief Ganci told Chief Turri, "Come on, let's search for them." Both chiefs were wearing civilian clothes with a helmet and a bunker coat on, and they went into the building to help with the search. The Father's Day fire affected Chief Ganci. While at the funerals, he would approach those who operated at the extremely challenging fire and personally thank them for their efforts, just like what Chris was just saying. All right, we didn't think it would get any worse than that until September 11, 2001. Chief of Department Ganci and Chief of Safety Al Turri would frequently arrive at headquarters every morning at 0600 hours. They would discuss various topics on how to keep the firefighters safe. Other chiefs who were at headquarters that morning were Chief of Operations Stan Nigro, Citywide Tour Commanders Joe Callan and Donald Burns, and Deputy Assistant Chief Sal Casano. At approximately 0845 hours, a thud could be heard on the 7th floor headquarters. Chief Ganci yelled out to Chief Nigro, "Look out your window. A plane's just hit the World Trade Center." The chiefs in headquarters quickly assembled and responded to Lower Manhattan. Chiefs Ganci and Nigro were in the same car being driven by Steve Masiello, Chief Ganci's executive officer. The ride to the World Trade Center was quiet. Both chiefs were looking at the carnage that they were responding to. But while responding to the fire, Chief Ganci called the Manhattan dispatcher and transmitted a fifth alarm for the North Tower. Upon arrival at the World Trade Center, Chief Nigro told Chief Ganci, "This is going to be the worst day of our lives."
Wow.
Quickly, Chief Ganci had a command presence. He ordered a command post set up on West Street near Vesey, near a ramp to the parking garage to the World Financial Center. As it was being set up, a loud roar could be heard and heard a crash. It was a second plane striking the South Tower of the World Trade Center. Chief Ganci ordered another fifth alarm and transmitted to operate at the South Tower. He made contact with Deputy Chief Pete Hayden of the 1st Division, who was in command of the North Tower. Chief Ganci had Assistant Chief Joe Callan go to the North Tower and Assistant Chiefs Donald Burns and Jerry Barbera go to the South Tower. Chief of Rescue Operations Ray Downey arrived and took firefighters into the South Tower and the Marriott Hotel World Trade Center, building number 3. This was a horrific scene, and the Chief of Department, Pete Ganci, was in command. There had never been that much fire in a high-rise building before, and now there was that much fire in 2 high-rise buildings. People were jumping out of the building. Those who witnessed what was happening were impressed how Chief Ganci had situational awareness. Nobody in their wildest dreams could envision an incident of this magnitude. Yet, Chief Ganci was calmly and methodically managing it. He realized that time was of the essence. His plan was to have firefighters operate in each of the buildings at 20-minute intervals. The objective was to get as many people out of the buildings as possible. Chief of Safety Turri said that Assistant Chief Callan brought up, "Are we thinking about collapse here?" I could just hear those words coming out of his mouth. At 0959 hours, the dreaded result happened. the South Tower collapsed. A group of chiefs and firefighters at the command post quickly took shelter in the garage of Two World Financial Center. The already extreme incident grew in urgency and complexity. At about 10:15, Chief Ganci grabbed Chief Cassano and told him to establish a command post as far north as possible. Chief of Department Pete Ganci continued commanding operations. He was professional in every way. A great unknown was how many people were lost when the South Tower collapsed. Chief Ganci ordered all fire units to evacuate the North Tower. He issued the order 5 times. While units were evacuating the North Tower, Chief Ganci sent Chief of Safety Turry to go north and start making the new command post operational. As Chief Turry was heading north, Chief Ganci and First Deputy Commissioner Bill Feehan witnessed Lieutenant Robert Nagel of Engine 58 hit by a jumping civilian. They started to go to that location. Just then, the North Tower of the World Trade Center began to collapse. Chief Ganci, First Deputy Fire Commissioner Bill Feehan, and Chief Ray Downey were caught in the collapse. Deputy Assistant Chief Al Turry started grabbing available firefighters and assigning them to search for the trapped firemen. The last known location was near the Winter Garden on West Street. They were buried under about 4 feet of rubble. The search was on to find them. Firefighter Luis Torres of Squad 41 spotted a pair of uniform dress shoes. They dug in that area. This is where they found Chief Ganci. He had mortal injuries. Chief of Department Peter J. Ganci Jr. was a fireman's fireman. He was a humble man, and he was highly respected wherever he worked. One of his nicknames when he was working his way through the ranks was Pete the Prince. He was a blue-collar guy who worked hard to hone his craft as a firefighter. His leadership qualities were reinforced by the knowledge of those that served under him, that he would never ask someone to do something he wouldn't do himself. He rose through the ranks to become chief of department. He was in command of the most horrific fire in the history of the FDNY. Chief Ganci led the greatest rescue effort in the annals of the city of New York. In the history of the FDNY, Peter J. Ganci Jr. is the only chief of department to be killed in the line of duty. He was 54 years old. He left behind his wife, Kathy, 3 children, Peter III, Danielle, and Christopher. May he rest in peace. Never forget.
Yeah, terrible day, really was a terrible day. And Stevie, God rest his soul, it's such survivor guilt. Like, I always feel bad. Like, Steve and him were like basically butt buddies, joking around. Like, he was my dad's like work wife. I don't know if you guys ever met Steve. He would do all the business. He was the guy that would like get everything done. And he was my dad's protector, and he really was. And I think he never really recovered from that. He always felt a little responsible. Now, I live in Massapequa. I grew up in North Massapequa, and my mom, like, they had a house across the street that was for sale, a nice piece of property. And my dad knew Stevie was an aide in the 2A Battalion when my dad was in, he was in 124. I mentioned before, the lieutenants were on 124. My dad was there. It was Isa, Jimmy Ellison's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of like old time swinging guys came through that place, like Bobby Fagner, Mike Schweiger's dad, Patty.
Schweiger.
But so him and Stevie were real tight, and he got Stevie to buy a piece of property across the street. So he would park the department vehicle between the houses, and my dad would walk over in the morning, open the front door, turn the coffee pot on, walk in the backyard, and have a cigarette, and wait for Steve to get ready, and then they would ride in together. So that morning he had jury duty. My dad was supposed to go to jury duty, and Stevie was taking him to the courthouse. He's like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "You got a summons. You're gonna go to jail, for ignoring your jury duty summons." My dad's like, pfft. And they end up going. So,
oh goodness gracious,
Stevie had such and then he got sick. But I'll tell you a story. So Stevie, he had a hard time talking to us. Right. So like most guys have a firehouse to fall back on. Guys in the firehouse take care of you. But the headquarters is such a transient place where like a lot of those guys are gone. and guys who were there are gone. So it's not. It is a firehouse, but it's not. So you get lost in the shuffle. So where everyone thought that like my mom was aware of things that were going on in the department, there wasn't. So here's my mom, who was the chief of department's wife, and she got no invitations to anything. She was never aware of anything. So the first Memorial Day with when they got limousines for everybody, whose they forgot?
Oh my God.
So like they ended up correcting it, but at the same time, like, how do you do that? Like, how does that happen? But like, so Stevie, who I love, and his son is a fireman at 120 truck, but Stevie had survived it and didn't talk to us for 2 or 3 years, and it was heartbreaking because all we wanted to know was information on like how was his state of mind? Was he angry? Was he upset? Was he like beside? Like, we just wanted pieces of information, and Stevie couldn't talk to us, and then he got sick. So, and then he ended up passing away, and it was right at the end where he would like tell us stuff, and it was a shame because like he got really sick, but he knew my dad was a phenomenal golfer. I don't know if you guys like knew that. Like, that was his thing. Like,
wow.
My dad's anniversary, my parents' anniversary, my mom was a saint because my dad would always like, that was the FUBAR, like the golf club in the fire department that he was part of, but it was all these older guys, retired guys, young, but they would always go to Pinehurst. And it was always my parents' anniversary all the time. And my mom would be like, wait, you're going to North Carolina to play golf? Like South Carolina? Like, it's our anniversary. So I said before, my dad liked birds. We had trees. So our pool was always cold. All right? It was always cold. And my mom's like, we're cutting these trees down. We're cutting these trees. You better not cut those trees down, Kath. You better not. They're home for the birds. It was their anniversary. He's in Pinehurst. What do you think happened? As soon as that car left the driveway, here comes the tree. Cutting everything down. But
I love it.
Like, I was going through like a little bit of like a work thing where we wanted to switch careers and do something else, and he knew I was like having this conundrum, and he played with these guys on Saturday at Bethpage because we live in Massapequa, and he played every Saturday. He played Bethpage with these same 3 guys. Jimmy Yakimovich was the odd man.
Yak, yeah.
So he kicks Jimmy out for me, so I got to play golf with my dad every Saturday from like that from April straight through to when he was killed. So it was like a bonding thing that me and him got to share right before he died. So, but my dad had his clubs and he loved his pings. He had these ping red eyes. And if my dad liked something, he would buy it. He never showed off. He never be like, look what I got. But this is what he wanted. I used to caddy at Bethpage Black when he was a kid because that's where he lived over there. So he was very good. He was like, he would shoot, high 70s, like a guy on, and he was just a technician. So Stevie went that night when they were getting his body from the trade center to bring it to the morgue. They found his car. They found the car. It was crushed. It was blown out. The FBI had popped all the trunks of everything to look for IEDs and stuff. And he got the
clubs are in there.
They brought them back. Yeah. And I remember, it took me a while to go through them and clean them. Like I couldn't believe like the glass that I would find in these things. I mean, the pressure that must have happened. But
right.
He went and got the golf clubs and had it for me in case. And they're in my mom's attic. I got to be honest with you. Like, golf was not the same after that because that was like off thing. And then, like maybe again sometime in the future with my own son, but like at this, it kind of took the fun away from me from that. But so Stevie had his helmet, and this story's crazy. So like he tells me that like I have his helmet. I'm gonna put it in a box. It's not in good shape, and I'll give it to you guys when I think you're ready. So a couple of years go by. Stevie's dying, and I asked him about it, and he tells my brother, he goes, believe it or not, I opened the box, and the thing is like eaten, gone. And I believe it because how many of these guys are sick, And like I work a little bit with the Ray Pfeiffer Foundation, so like anybody wants to check that out to help the brothers, like go look, check the RayPfeifferFoundation.org, sites. They do wonderful things for the brothers. But so I remember him saying this, and I believed it because I'm like, yeah, the toxins, the shit that those guys were breathing in, like I believe that. So I'm living in Massapequa Park now, and I'm on the bike path, and a guy stops me, and he goes, "Are you Chris Ganci?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I have to tell you this story." And he starts crying, and I'm like, all right, brother. He's like, "No, I'm retired. I'm from Triple Deuce. you know, and he goes, I met your dad a few times. He goes, my brother-in-law is Doug, you know, he works down at, you know, Morning Pride at Fort Totten. I'm like, oh yeah, I know Doug. And he's like, so I'm having lunch there. And I'm like, he starts crying. I'm like, what story are you going to tell me? I'm like, unless you tell me my dad had another family, like somewhere. Like,
what the hell are you crying about?
No, nothing like that. He goes, I'm having lunch with him. We're buffing out. And he goes, do you know what's in that box up there? And I said, what? He goes, Pete Ganci's helmet. And he goes, no, couldn't be. And he goes, no, Pete Ganci's helmet's in there. He goes, the family doesn't want it? He goes, no, I don't think so. He goes, this is what it is. So he tells me the story. Now, I was under the impression that the helmet was gone. And I called him Doug up at Morning Pride, and he's like, yeah, it's here. Now, what Stevie must have done was, it's in bad shape, so he must have not wanted us to see if they could do something to repair it or put it in some type of presentable, you know, condition. And then he got sick, and then couldn't deal with any of it. So I have it. It's in my attic. It's I won't share you with it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know if I'm going to donate to the museum or whatever I'm going to do with it. But I'm not naive. I mean, you lift a piece of steel that's 6 inches by 6 inches. It weighs 5 pounds. A building, 110 stories full of it fell from a mile in the sky. Like, we're made of water. It's obvious. You can imagine it in your head of what happens to a human being when they get hit with this. So I'm not under the illusion. When you read Dennis Smith's book, Report from Ground Zero, there's a descriptive passage about when they found my dad. You know, and I remember, I think that might have been the first time that I read something about September 11th and my dad was like that particular section, and it's really vivid in terms of the imagery, you know. And so, like, I'm not naive. These guys they fought a war, and, you know, he was a casualty of it. And, you know, like, I remember that whole morning where I was always like, he's the chief of department. He's in a bunker somewhere. Like, you know, well, we haven't heard from him. My brother, you know, like, I'm like, you haven't heard from him. You know, you live with the same guy. You don't hear from him for 3 or 4 days in a row when he's out doing something, you know, like, he's busy. Like, we come after, this is more important. Like, and I remember my mom and my sister were starting to, like, really be upset about it. And I, you know, I obviously remember that time where it was very vivid and it was right in your face. And I had to leave. I went to my friend's house around the corner, and my friend's mom comes and gets me. She goes, I think you need to go home. And I said, why? She goes, the NYPD just blocked off your block. And I remember going, really? Like, what? Like, I live in Nassau County. And then I'm putting it together. And then my brother had called me a while back, and he said, I'm worried. And I said, why? He goes, I haven't heard Dad on the radio all morning. And I go, Pete, he's busy. No, I haven't heard him. Now, what I didn't know was the marshals, when they were picking Pete up, they didn't realize who they had. And they're like, oh, you hear Ganci got killed? And Pete's in the back seat. You know, like, that's how Pete. That's how Pete. I'm not blaming those guys. Nobody knows anything, you know, like, but I remember running home, and it was like Dennis Conway. It was Stevie Masiello. There was a priest there. And I remember, like, Stevie telling my mom, like, he's gone. And my mom's like, gone where? And he's like, gone. He's dead. And, like, my mom, like I remember, like, the pitch of her voice, like, and it hurts me to hear it, you know. And I remember just thinking, wow, things not going to be the same. Like, this is, and it was just from then on, it was just this crazy, emotional, visceral feeling of, like, the smells, his wake, you know, like, I remember because they found him and Bill the first day, and I'm lucky. Like, we're lucky. Like, I say I'm lucky. No, Mike Kiefer from 132. They never found any part of him. And Mike was, you know, in my brother's EMS cadet program. And Mike used to call the house. Like, we just drove around. He used to call the house all the time. And he would talk to my dad. He wouldn't even call Pete. He was calling my dad. Chief, when are we getting promoted? When are we getting promoted? When are we getting promoted? He'd be like hounding my dad on the phone all the time. And Mikey went to 132. And then all those guys got killed. And I just remember, like, then seeing Bud Kiefer out of things. Like, I went to as many funerals as I could. And I remember my dad's funeral was the 15th, that was, if you ask Chief Kleehouse, that was when they got assigned. Did you know that? Like, Chief Kleehouse and my dad and Dennis Conway, they were all in the same Proby class. And that was their Proby class anniversary date. It was the 15th.
Oh, my God.
Of his funeral. Yeah, so, like, you know, it was such a visceral, like, time where, like, things were like a whirlwind. And I'll tell you another funny story. Like, so we're at the White House. They said this is how weird stuff like that happened at the time. I wish I could have wrote this stuff down because it would have been great stories. But they send us. We were at the White House. I thought we were going for a tour, like of the White House, but no, we're in the White House. So we're in this room. It's the blue room. It's that overlooks the Washington Monument, like that famous like picture you can see from the. That's called the blue room in the White House. So this was like at a time when every single thing that president did it was like October of 2001. It was on TV. I think we just invaded Afghanistan or whatever it was. So all of a sudden the door opens up of the blue room and here comes the president of the United States and his wife. Now I thought I was just there for a tour. Now the president. My mom, who was a nurse for terminally ill children. My sister is a speech pathologist for like developmentally challenged kids. My brother's a New York City fireman. And here I am wearing a suit. I work from a big bad pharmaceutical company. I'm like, what do I have to say? But like in my family, of course, I'm the last one. I'm the last one. So Chief goes down all to the receiving line to me, and I go, Mr. President, you know my dad be doing if he was here right now? And he said, what? I said, he'd be hitting his 3-wood over the fence onto the Washington Monument lawn. Nah, the pressure, the White House, he'd shank it. President, no offense, you don't know my dad. Like that, and he starts laughing. So then, like, they shuffle us into this room. And now I sit in the wrong seat. I sit next to Laura Bush. My mom's supposed to be sitting. The Secret Service is like nudging me over. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. And the president comes in and they play the music. And then he's just sitting there and he takes his glasses off and he puts his pen down. And he's like, I was just talking to Pete's son, Chris. And he repeats the story verbatim. Now, I didn't even know I was supposed to be at the White House. Now my friends are at home going, is that Chris Ganci? Is the president?
That's 3-wood?
So bizarre, but that was the kind of stuff like where 1 minute you're here and then the next minute this is what you're doing, and like since then like you hear stuff from guys like Chief Tory. Like I love Chief Tory. Like you get like Chief Jonas had an opportunity to speak to him, like a very emotional like person that had a bond with my dad, and like to listen to him speak. Now he was another person where it hurt him to talk to us for a while. You know, but he couldn't wait to talk to us. But it was like, I just wanted to know, was my dad doing the right thing? Like, I know he was, but like, I want to hear like I heard from guys in 18 truck, they saw his face and he was like, get out of here, you know, go here, go this direction. And he was like directing guys. He was like in control right up to the last moment that he was here. So like, he had that opportunity. I'm glad.
Low battery.
I still feel that way now after all this time. I mean, we were down there, whatever it was, an hour after the second tower collapsed, right? Whatever it was. And I still watch these things on September or, 10th, whatever it is. They start putting all these things on TV, right? On CNN, whatever it is. And I still watch these things for whatever, like you said, to get any information like that I feel like I don't have to make it make sense, right? I mean, I don't know what it is. My wife comes in the room and she'll be like, what are you doing that to yourself for? Like, why do you keep watching? I cannot not watch it. I have to, I have to do it. I don't know.
I know Chief Jonas has an entirely different experience than I do. But I feel myself, it's been better now. It's been a lot of times gone by, and I thank God I have like my wife, my kids, but there was a time where August, my personality would change. Like I would change. Like I would be darker, sully. I'd be more irascible. I didn't want to be around people. Mm-hmm. And then I would feel better. Like after September 11th, like they used to do the sunset ceremony down at the Trade Center, which I really used to enjoy. Like because you used to see people like Chief Kilduff or Chief Daly, and you would sit there like regular guys at a bar with Jack Pritchett, 2-time Gordon Bennett winner, and you would sit there and we would talk about stuff, like. I always felt better like after that, but it's just, I always find myself feeling that way about things, but I watch them too in a bad way. Like the Smithsonian has a phenomenal documentary, like hour by hour.
I watched it. Countless
I never saw
One Day in America.
With the hotel when it was, it looked like a movie set. And now I work in the 19th Battalion and my 24 partner is Kieran Kilduff, right? And like a mentor to me, phenomenal chief. Great guy, and he tells me his experience because he was a young lieutenant down there. I'm like, you start putting these pieces together.
That's exactly. I was just going to say that you put we talked to guys at 41. We talked to guys that were in the lobby of the, of the hotel, right? I mean, obviously the chief story, but if you were on this side of the pole, you're still standing there. If you're on the left side of the pole, you're not standing there anymore. And, and then and then, like you said, you watch it for that split second on TV and you're like, it just looks like a movie thing because you're not feeling it. You're not seeing it. But when you talk to all the guys and you put all the pieces together of all these little stories and all these other documentaries, you're just trying to get as much information as you can. You know what I mean?
And you listen to guys like Oriole Palmer, you listen to the audio. It's like, and I know a lot of guys like to, most of the job now is, post 9/11, but they were around a lot of those guys for Black Sunday. Like, and now I work up in the Bronx. So like, I've been to that building. So now I can put like, you listen to that audio and you want things to change. You're like, no, change. Like, don't
do that. Don't do that. Yeah. Don't do that.
That's what's going to happen. But you're like, change. And like, and now you're like, but the September 11th it's like that times 1,000 because now you're like,
yeah,
wow, like wow, if they just would have went this way. Like, I know exactly where they found my dad. Like, exactly. Like, and I used to have a ritual where I used to go there and like, so my dad used to play a dime a hole. Like, so like we used to joke around. Like, that's what he would play with his guys. Like, and he had a bag full of dimes in his golf bag. And the guys used to mess around with him. They would take like the heavy sprinkler heads. I remember I'm like, this thing weighed 10 pounds. Like, no wonder your neck hurts. Like, you're playing a joke on you. Like we had rules. It was over 80 degrees. You couldn't wear shorts unless it was over 85 degrees. You had to walk. You had like all these like crazy golf rules. But whatever, we used to play. But and
put a dime over there.
Yeah, when I used to go to his gravesite at Holyrood Cemetery, I'd find a bunch of dimes from guys that would come.
Really?
Dimes in the crack. And you were talking about before, like 82nd Airborne guys. Every year they come, and I don't know who it is. They put like 82nd Airborne tabs.
Wow.
Like, thing all the time.
Never forget.
It's 20 years. Like, and guys say, remember, like, again, like I feel I'm proud. I'm proud that like he's maintained the legacy of who he is, but at the same time, I think he would be a little not embarrassed because that's a terrible. He was proud of being a fireman, but he would not want to overshadow guys again like Mike Kiefer, these other guys that didn't have an opportunity to make a name and reputation in his job, but had every much as much as he did on his job. And in fact, he would be the first guy to push them in front, and he'd step back because that's the kind of guy that he was. He didn't need spotlight. He didn't need someone telling him he was great. He didn't need anybody telling him, well, you're the chief of the department. Like, he never was that guy. He was always the most cool, calm, approachable fireman in the room. And I know it as a chief, like, and I know Chief Jonas will probably attest, is like, we never turn down bad information, right? Bad suggestions. Like, as a chief, like, I always tell the guys up there, like, you come up to me with a good idea, like, I'm taking it. So like that would be the cool way. Like, if you come up to me and you're into it, and he'd be that guy, and you can't think that you know everything, because the minute you do, then something bad's gonna happen. You need to be humble and say, look, I'm just here to direct, right? And like they're the guys with the information and the knowledge. And look, that was bigger than we all knew it was gonna be. I think, like, they probably had an idea it was going to come down. I don't think anybody thought it was going to do that. I don't think they wouldn't have been an officer like, hey, we're going up in this. I mean, maybe we would still do that. We probably would. I mean, you listen to the Oriole Palmer stuff, I always die laughing.
Oh, my God.
Amazing. But Oriole was in such good shape. When he's talking to his aide, I'm dying because the gap gets bigger and bigger. I'm on floor 46. And then
I'll be right with you.
Floor 47. Like Oriole's 10 flights up, and his aide's like, and I could just picture some guy like, man, I'm too old for this,
We're gonna try to do a tribute to him at some point.
Yeah, you know what's funny, Chief? Like we just said that maybe if we knew what I responded also to the plane crash in the Rockaways, and that wasn't too long after 9/11.
Right.
2 months.
And I had guys, firemen in their private cars flying by me, going to the scene in their own cars. Like, it didn't matter. We didn't learn anything. They're just going to go in no matter what.
Did you guys work Sandy? Like, I always pick, like,
I was at Sandy.
And like, so I did dumb stuff on Sandy. I want to say that out there. Like, I was a young lieutenant and I took liberties I definitely would probably get fired for. Like if I think back on other stuff.
Allegedly.
Like, I'm joking. Like, I was with 255 engine and I was working at my old place for a mutual for a guy. And we ended up got it to Rockaway. I have no idea how. You can ask Bobby Maines. He was riding on a rigless. It was insane. But I always remember, like, as soon as we got to like 129, all the firemen whoosh to the rig, like they're like, going here. Like I just remember, like there wasn't a soul. Every house was on fire, and it was 9,000 firemen looking to do something. We're going here. We're going here. We're going here. And it was like, yeah, we're never gonna learn our lessons.
Nah.
That's the best part.
But that's the best part, like you said before, bro. I said every time I'm out of the job now 4 years. The other day, or what it was, a couple of weeks ago, there's a guy hanging from a rope. Right, some guy on Citizens app has got the thing. Right, it shows up. The guy's making a grab, or 2 or 3 grabs we made at that job. And I never feel I can't feel more proud. Right, like you said, you said, we're always going to do it. Always, we're always going to be there. We're going to come through every time. And
we're crazy. Like, but that's what is beautiful about what we do. It really is. It really is. I mean, look, that Darren Harsh was amazing. That was, I mean, the guy was.
Every one of these guys. It's so. Yeah. And what I every time my daughter says something to me, I still say this line all the time. I could do anything. I'm FDNY trained. Right. That was Dennis Smith said that on the podcast here. He's like, we could do anything because we're FDNY trained. Right. I could do anything. So it's going to get done one way or another. I'm going to get it done, man.
Guys will rig something and do something. Like
we are going to get it done.
And we have the most talented people. We really do. We have the most talented people. People who can weld. So I had that building collapse, like in December, right? The 19th Battalion, the one that collapsed in the middle of the day for no apparent reason, right? So JoJo is working the Big Red, right? The tractor. I'm watching this thing, and he's threading the needle. I'm getting so nervous. I'm watching Jeremy Castle. But I was in amazement watching, like, how amazing are these guys?
Yeah, we could do it, man.
Yeah,
I see Chief J. Jones. I see Chief J's smirk because I could see the pride. I could see it oozing out of him today because he's feeling the same way.
Never leaves you, bro. It's with you for life.
Chief.
You were talking earlier about how it's a little different now that you're a battalion chief. Because you left the company atmosphere. You used to be a fireman with your guys, a lieutenant and a captain with your guys. Now you're a chief officer with you and your aide. But you get a different sense of satisfaction. You watch these guys perform. And it's like you're a parent looking at your kids, and you're watching them do remarkable things, and you take great pride in that, in their success. That they're doing these things that really are pretty amazing. I haven't been retired for 2 years yet. And people come up to me, how are you dealing with retirement? I says, I'm not dealing with it well. to be honest.
I got these 2 boobs keep calling me.
to be honest,
you're doing a great job because, like, I love this kind of stuff because a lot of these new guys, they come on a job, they come from different backgrounds and they love the fire department, but they need to learn from guys like you, Chief. Like that newsletter, like I know Kenny Scanlon's trying to bring it back into the 7th Division because there really is like. These type of ties, a tie to our history is what it ties us all together on this job. And wherever, if you're from Long Island or you're from Ohio or you're from East New York and you're a fireman, like this is the things that bond us all together. And like I'm proud. Like I watch my guys, and look, we have no favorites, right? We're not supposed to have favorites, but we watch our guys and like, wow, that guy's sharp. He's really sharp. This guy not so sharp. But you know what? I love him.
This guy not so sharp.
But you could, you would. You take great pride in what they were doing, and I would tell people, says, you got to remember, I retired out of the most exciting job in the world.
Yeah,
I had front row center. I was a chief officer for 22 years. I had front row center of watching the best firefighting in the world and watching these guys perform. Just like, there we go. We did good today.
Watching these guys, and it's like a ballet of chaos, and it's like
ballet of chaos.
It is
perfect wording.
You might need to make a T-shirt of that, Rufio. Ballet of chaos.
Watch 40-foot truck. Like I love, like we talk about 92 engine. Like I love 92 engine. Like I love 40-foot truck. And then the next battalion over 70 battalion. So like you watch 44, like they'll demolish a building, like to nothing. Like 111 does the same thing out in Brooklyn, like to the studs. like go out and get the mask, come back, like I mean, destroy the place, like, and you have to appreciate, like, wow, like, all right, that was cool, like, you know, and I was like, they just destroyed a building. I'm like, yeah, well, we had to do that, you know.
I got a report for that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Well, like what you were talking about before, about getting a pat on the back from your guys, you know, and I brought this up when they did the my history. That never leaves you, you know. When I was in the days immediately post 9/11, I had this strong desire to make contact with the guys that broke me in, and I called a couple of them, and you know, these guys were all retired now, and they all was like, "You did good, kid," you know, and that stays with you forever. So you'll never leave. You know, yeah, I was a newly promoted battalion chief, and I got, you know, retired firemen saying you did good. You know, that they you know, you never stop seeking their approval. You know?
No, like Tommy Frizzalone. I had the pleasure of working with Tommy
Frizz.
Frizzalone. Hey, there's no greater guy on his job than Tommy Frizzalone. And I had Tommy Frizzalone and Pat McAvoy, who were two opposite sides of the same coin, you know. And like I had the luxury of working with both of them. And like if they gave you a compliment, like you were like wow, like that guy thinks I'm something, like wow, you know. And that's the best thing about this. I mean, this job has so many facets to it, but when you work with guys like that,
so all you need to hear is you did good, kid.
Like done good.
All right, I'll do anything you want right now. You know?
I said that a couple of times on the podcast. Like, if Captain Murphy would have said, "Hey, listen, Lou, I want to dig the China here, and you can't use hand tools," I'll do whatever it is, man. I was doing it for that man. You know what I mean? So, just how you wanted to make those guys proud. There's no doubt about it.
Chief G, do you think that you're like your father in the way that I mean, it seems like you are. Like you'll go back to bat for your guys no matter what. Like you take that same mentality.
I mean, I don't want to go into my private past, but I've already done it, you know. And it's like, and I've taken a few bullets for guys, and like there's no regrets to it because I think it's the right thing to do. You always take care of the men. Like I learned early on, like they come first. Whether it's you go to a fire and you make grabs, like, well, they get ridden up first. You take care of them first. Like they get jammed up, you take care of them first. Like I went to St. Albans and I put a guy's books together for him because like I thought that highly of him. You know, he's in Rescue 2 now. He's an awesome guy. You know, like super sharp, just great guy. Like I'll do anything if you're into the fire department. I'll do anything for you. Like, and I think that's how he felt. You know, and look. We suffered as Gancis, as me and my brother and my sister, because my dad was always out. Whether he was working a side job, he used to own Potter's Pub, he used to own East Meadow, and a lot of guys used to get their checks there and stuff like that. So Thursday nights were out, you know. So Fridays were they were long nights, you know. So like guys would go there, like, but you know, like I think all of us on this job, especially anybody who's in the officer rank, like you learn like very early on, they make you look good, right? Like they make you look good. So you do everything in your power to make sure that they look good, but most importantly that they're safe and they get home. Like that's at the end of the day, that's the most important thing is that nothing. And look, I've been lucky enough where I've worked in places and I've been to really bad fires, but thank God everybody's gone home at the end of the day. Like I've been to a few fatal fires, but I was a fireman. I wasn't a company officer, but you know, like I'm sure like I still got hopefully more time left in my career. Even though I'm getting back, but I'm sure, you know, maybe by the time it's over, I'm going to have that, unfortunate opportunity, which is something that we all have to prepare ourselves for. At the end of the day, our job is to keep the guys safe, to protect property and life in New York City, and just keep going for the next 150 years, right?
Yep.
Take care of
I got to share a story with you, Chief. So, Chief G, right before 9/11, I'm almost sure it was your dad, but I had gotten jammed up from something that I did even before I got on the job. It came back to bite me in the ass. And I remember the captain, and I believe it was your dad he was talking to. And all I can hear is one side of the conversation. And your dad had asked, is he a good guy? And the captain said, yes, he's definitely a good guy. And that was it. It went away. It never came back to bite me. Nothing. It just disappeared. So
I
all he had
remember
to do was,
it had to be because Murph was a 111 guy.
yeah,
Right? It had to be.
and that's all I heard on one side of the phone was like, yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah, he's
Dennis Murphy was.
Well, as firemen, we make dumb mistakes, and we're entitled to them. But if you're a good guy and there's potential in you, then I think your job is to look out for the next group.
Yeah.
Look, it's tough now. There's 8 million cameras at every fire scene. Like, there's 8 million.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff makes things difficult, and it's always the officer at the end of the day. But like, I don't second guess my decisions. Like, I'm sure he didn't at the same time, which is you go to bat for the men, because at the end of the day, it's the firemen that make the New York City Fire Department run. It's not the company officers and the chiefs. Usually there's too many of those guys, not enough Indians, right? Too many chiefs, not enough Indians, right?
Yeah. So it's funny that the detective that arrested me actually said the same thing. Sometimes good people do stupid things.
Right? Allegedly.
Could have happened. I heard it happen. Somebody told me it happened.
But there you go.
The record doesn't reflect it, therefore it's only hearsay.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, Mikey. Oh man, what a good show tonight, fellas. I can't believe how much I learned. I thank Chief J and Chief G, man. Unbelievable stuff I learned. I mean, you think you know somebody peripherally, but then you find out what they're really about, and like, oh my god.
I told you, I remember in the pre-show I was saying to the gimp over here, Chief G, that
gimp? What?
That
you think you know him well enough now?
I'm gonna start calling him Chris in a couple of minutes, but
I don't know. But he's got some pipes over there. I don't know.
He's got the guns, right?
Took off the sweatshirt to throw off the pipes there. You know,
I'm sucking up all the oxygen.
When I see pictures of your dad, like he had that like leathery face, you know, he has that like old style look to him.
Salty
you know
guy.
I mean? Like
he looks salty.
Salty guy, right? Exactly. That one picture that we have. Do we have that picture of him in the rain? You said that's the one I used for the thumbnail.
So this was before cameras. That's the cover of the book too. So it's, I don't know if Mike's got it, but that's the cover of the rain photo, right? So
yeah.
It was like a fourth alarm in the Bronx, which we have a lot of them. Chief Jonas can attest to that. We tend to lose them, and we lose them spectacularly. I think it was a fourth alarm, and somebody snapped that photo. There it is. And he came home. And he's like, "Look at this picture." And this was like, now we have 8,000 cameras on a fire scene. This was like, you never got it. Every fireman likes having their picture taken, even him. So he was like, "Check out this picture." And I was like, yeah, Pop, whatever. And that's how he was like, "Really?" And I'm like, but after he was killed, we found it. And I'm like, this is his mask card. Like, this is his mask card. I mean, that is like him determined that I'm working, you know, that's his like all down to business picture. I love it. He would blush, but he'd be like, "Yeah, that's a cool picture. I like that." You know, he would approve. He would approve of that, you know. But it's funny. I thank the Lord you guys do these kind of things, because you know, like, you really get a human side to like these guys. And as interesting as I'm describing him, he was 1,000 times more alive and vibrant and smart and loyal. Like, that's the other thing. Like, loyal. He was the most loyal person to his friends. When he was killed, every guy's, "Oh, he was my best friend. He was my best friend," and they all meant it, because that's how he treated guys. There's Ray Downey.
Oh, those guys.
Yeah, I said, looks like a South American dictator, right?
Looks like Borat.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Like, so this particular, it was an event at like Gracie Mansion or something, and I remember like the wives were invited, and my dad telling my mom, like, "Kath, you're not gonna like this one. It's gonna be all stuffy. This one's gonna be like this. You're gonna hate it." So she stayed home. He comes home that night, and he's like, "This was unbelievable. It was like this most unbelievable spread. They had this, they had this." My mom's like, "Are you kidding me? You told me to stay home." You know, but you know, and it's funny because like you know, Ray's obviously a legend on this job, and his 2 sons are like amazing. You know, he has more than 2 sons, but his 2 sons on the fire department. You know, Chuck's been like a mentor to me my whole career. You know, and Joe's has been awesome too. You know, so it's like, it's great. Like, we sit around, we joke around about, you know, stuff, but like at the same time, I get to work with his sons. You know. It's just, I'm glad we get to keep on and carry on a tradition.
His grandson's trying to get on the job.
Really?
Joe's kid. Yeah, he's in EMS. He's trying to get the promotion.
Wow.
So we actually have you do have him too, right, Chief? We can get that'll be great.
Yeah,
Maybe
that
you
would
can
be
put the
another
word
great
into
film.
Chuck for me, because maybe a little of that. Like,
Busy,
hey, Chuck.
busy.
He's busy.
I was the battalion chief for 16 years in a 5.0. Like I got the opportunity when I was 126th, and I get to know him. You know, he was just an amazing guy, like a man's guy. Like you want to hang out and talk to him, and cool, calm as an officer, like just absolute the best, the best. You know, I can only imagine. I never had the opportunity to work with his dad, but I heard like amazing things about it.
Yeah. Chief, before we wrap up, you remember the last things that you said to your dad the last time you saw him?
Yeah. So, do you remember the Band of Brothers? Right,
Yeah.
came out. Okay,
Watch it
so
every year on Memorial Day.
so a lot of people don't know. Like September 10th was like the premiere, right? So it was a double episode. It was like the first two episodes were together, and my dad was like so excited to watch it because, like I said before, he used to talk about how when he was in 82nd Airborne, it was the proudest time of his entire life, and he really had such esteem and pride for the New York City, for the United States military, especially the Army and the Airborne. And this was about the Airborne. So I remember he got home late. It was late, and he was wearing his work duties and a white T-shirt because he took off his shirt. And we're sitting in my basement, and I think the show was like 10 minutes in, and he's sleeping next to me. Fell asleep. And I'm like, Pop, and I'm like, go to bed. We'll watch it again. It's gonna be on tomorrow. He's like, yeah. And I remember, I'm like, I love you, and he's like, yeah, I love you too. And I usually don't say those things to each other, but like, I just thought it was odd. Like, doing this. I said, I love you, and he said, I love you. And then the next morning, he used to get up so early that I didn't get an opportunity to talk to him in the morning. I don't know if anybody even got an opportunity to talk to him in the morning, but at least I got to say something to him. I talked to him a lot. I know. I think a lot of guys we talk to up. I would sit in the bunk in the 157 at night. Now the last thing I would say, I would talk to him like, Dad, keep me safe tonight. Like, I also talked to him, how do I get to the rear of 3-story mixed occupancy equipment? like those kind of things. Like, again, like, I'm blessed because he gave me this gift. I would have never been a New York City fireman if this didn't happen. I would have been something else like that. And I think he'd probably be kicking himself because he's like, I spent $300,000 on your education. I could have bought a bigger boat, So
I could have had to.
Yeah, but I joke.
I could have been a member at Pinehurst.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have been proud. And like, I know, Pete could tell you, like, I still go to a fire, and it's been 20 years, and I still instinctively, and even if it's for a millisecond, think, man, I want to tell my dad, and I know he's dead.
Wow.
But like, my dad, and like, what a good job. Like, I'm gonna tell my dad. Like, and it lasts for a millisecond, but it's
does,
real.
yeah.
It's as real as anything else. It's like, shoot, he's gone. He's not here. I can't tell him. Like, who do you go tell things to? So. No, but thank you for doing this. It was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
I appreciate you guys coming on, man. It's these things we want to keep doing because it's just, we learn so much. And we honestly, I say to Louis all the time, we talk about it all the time. Like people say all the time, especially around 9/11. Oh, never forget. Yeah, all right. But you remember like around, September, October. But we want to never really forget and keep bringing these guys up and telling the whole life story. There's more to them. That's why we try to get
I know
family member.
I know him, but I don't now. I kind of feel like I know the guy a little bit.
There's more to the guy than just the fire
especially
department. It's the family member who can tell us who the man was, who the father was, who the husband was, and that's why we keep on doing these things.
Chief Jonas, we'll keep him around. He does a little,
he does it like that,
shaky job, but we'll keep him around.
And you know what?
You ever want to talk about fee? And I know you talked to Brian Davin. He's professional. He's made for this type of thing.
I'm gonna call John. I'm gonna get John.
On the show a few times, but
is Johnny retired yet? Because I was a probie school.
No, he's still working.
Oh, he is. He's still working. In the
He's in
Suede still?
Yeah.
Good guy.
I gotta give him a call.
All right. Thank you again. I can't thank you guys enough. Chief, we'll be calling you for the next one like tomorrow. All right.
After the roast beef.
Enjoy the roast beef tonight. What do you got with it? A little red, a little white? What are you doing?
Red.
I knew it. The red tonight. Good for you.
I'll do the red. Yeah.
And Chief Ganci, speedy recovery. Get back to the job. You're doing your dad proud. I know you are, man. And,
get them red eyes out, man. Start hitting them.
Yeah. No skiing, just golf. No skiing.
That's golf,
no
baby.
Skiing. No. Yeah. And who do we got on Monday, Ruffy?
We got Philly Mac Daddy.
Oh, Tuesday. Guys, the
Tuesday,
show is not Monday. It's Tuesday because Ruffy will be out in Iowa Iowa. So Tuesday we got Phil McCardle, charter member of Hazmat.
Philly McCardle's
Oh,
coming
fucking
on.
for fuck's sake, it's Philly McCardle. He looked like a wrapped sausage in that jumpsuit of his.
Oh, I'm gonna try and find a jumpsuit. I gotta wear a jumpsuit. We gotta find a jumpsuit to wear.
That'd be
Come
great.
on, we gotta do it.
I'll find
I think
one.
I might have like a skiing snowmobile suit from like
You gotta put a hazmat
1970
on it.
somewhere.
McCardle. Yeah. Chief, I'm gonna call you tomorrow so we can, or the next day, so we can work out the next one.
Okay.
And enjoy your roast beef and tell that lovely lady she's the best. Love her.
The
And
IT people over there.
and,
We love
and
the
enjoy
IT.
that grandbaby of yours, 2 weeks old. Sniff it
Snip
up.
them up. Snip them up.
Oh wait,
Okay.
we got to do one commercial, right, Mike? I'm sorry.
We do, and then I wanted to read something on Chief Ganci very briefly from the New York Times. It's the health
Do
and
it.
safety tip first,
Right.
which
Oh,
we'll
look-
play momentarily.
Okay.
Get yourself lined up here. And
Go
here
ahead.
it is.
I'm gonna do one.
The First Responders Center for Excellence is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to protecting the lives and livelihoods of first responders. Their education and research initiatives aim to bring greater awareness and understanding to the challenges to the health, safety, and well-being of firefighters, EMS personnel, and other first responders too. They are an affiliate of the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation.
All right, so the health and safety tip. We usually do one of those, health and safety with the physicals. Go get yourself checked out. But tonight we're going to do one on mental health because Roofy was there. You remember the guy that came to the booth, Roof, who was talking about a guy came to our booth in Indy
At FDIC, out of nowhere.
out of nowhere. The guy was in tears and he talked about one of our mental health ones where I shared with him the problems that I was having. And the guy started breaking down and crying. He says,
They-
when
I'm not crying. You're crying. Me
No,
and
you're
Cooper are,
crying.
like getting all freaking misty-eyed.
And I swear to God, he says, thanks to, I actually was thinking about taking my own life and I watched the show and I got help. And thank God, my girlfriend, who's my wife now, she helped me out. And there is help for guys like us. And the only thing I told him was it doesn't stop with recognizing it. It's a constant
I heard
every
you
day.
say that to him.
Yeah, I said to him, it doesn't end when you realize it and you go get help. You have to continuously work on yourself. It's a lifelong thing. So if you have a problem, go seek help. There's plenty of plenty of places you can go. There's plenty of fire departments that offer it. Go seek help. And that's it. That's all I got,
Get your
Mike.
stuff straightened out, baby.
Get it straightened out.
What do you got,
First
Mikey?
thing is the mental. So this is from the September 13th, 2001 New York Times, and it's an obituary for Chief Ganci. And it comes from Howard Safer, and I think that the fact that the quote is coming from him is particularly poignant because he's gone now too, unfortunately, and what a great guy he was. And it says, the chief would never ask anyone to do something he didn't do himself, said Howard Safer, who is his direct superior as fire commissioner from 1994 to 1996, the year Mr. Safer was named police commissioner. It didn't surprise me that he was right at the front lines. You would never see Pete 5 miles away in some command center, end quote.
Excellent. Good job, Mikey. You look sharp in that suit tonight, I would say.
Thank you. I
You
try.
got pants on with that, though? Or you got
I
nothing?
do.
All right.
You don't have a thong on under there, do you?
No. One day I want to have that bunker gear.
What was
on.
it? That was in Casino, right? That was De Niro. He was sitting behind the thing. He didn't want to get his pants
All right.
Yeah.
Didn't want to wrinkle.
wrinkled up. Yeah,
Wait a minute.
right.
You want to be a fireman now, not a cop?
Nah.
We changed.
Wait a
Well,
minute.
look what we did, Ruff. We brought him in.
I always wanted to be a fireman. I wanted to be a fireman since I was 3.
You
Why do you think
did.
I'm going to go get my EMT?
Oh, all right. All right, guys. Again, Chief Ganci, Chief Jonas, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
No, it was a great time. I
Great
knew it was
show.
going to be great. I knew it.
All right, guys. So we will see you on not Monday, but Tuesday. Until then, stay low and go.
All right,
All
everybody. We'll see you at the big one. Thanks again, Chiefs.
Take
On
care,
behalf
brothers.
of Chief Ganci, Chief Jonas, Lou, and Coobs, have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next time. And be advised, the tones are dropping.
Oh.
Take care. See ya.